Okay, so I guess these are the end times. Coronavirus rampaging through the country. They're shutting down bars and restaurants, and I mean, you can still go through the drive-through, thank God. Um, but I've never seen it this bad, folks. I've never seen it this bad, and it is freaking me out. I'm scared. I mean, I am. I'm pretty sure my show's gonna get canceled this weekend. I was supposed to play at Ben's Brewing in Yankton, South Dakota, and I guess I don't know if in South Dakota if they have all the same stuff coming through where they're shutting down bars, but I mean, Ben emailed me and said that it didn't look good, so probably gonna cancel that show. I don't know. I'm still gonna try to do music lessons. I mean, over at Carlson. Some people have started to cancel, but you know what? If this is the end, I'm not gonna cower. I'm gonna brave it. I'm gonna brave. Because I mean, grocery stores are still open, and if the checkout guy, I mean, maybe they're gonna just do automated. We could just automate checkouts, but I mean, if somebody's there to stock the shelves, and they're going to expose themselves to what is got to be an increased surge of the population going there, especially if they can't eat out. More people are going to need groceries, and so that's even more people that these workers are going to get exposed to. And if those people can brave it, so that people can continue to eat and function, then whatever. I will spend 30 minutes with some people, like I meet with people individually, and, if somebody's like, I just need 30 minutes, the school's canceled, like, I'm with my kid all day, every day. If you can just give me 30 minutes where I can take a break from being a parent, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, but, I mean, it's sad to see everybody so scared. I'm frustrated. But I mean, this is it. This is the situation we're in. We got to deal. We got to come together. We got to stay strong, even though it's tough. Even though it's tough. But we will survive this. I mean, not all of us. Which I don't say lightly. But as a people, we will survive this. We are strong. We will make it through. I mean, it's scary to think about, What if I die? What if I lose my parents? What if I lose my loved one? And there's no guarantees. There's just no guarantees, I try to take solace in the thought that, life is precious and makes it all the more beautiful. But and I think that's the best way to deal with the fear, right? We just got to embrace love. We got to embrace love and life, and death is part of it. Death is a part of life. It's nothing to fear. I mean, it's scary because there's a lot of unknowns, but and even though maybe I'm at low risk, I'm younger, I'm not immunocompromised. I mean, there's still no guarantees, but if I were to go, let's say, were my time, I were to get this virus and die, I'd be grateful for the life that I've lived so far, because it's been a really good one. I've gotten to do amazing things. Honestly, everything I set out to do, like every dream that I've had, I've been able to actualize, and I'm very lucky. I consider myself very lucky. I've been able to travel the country and play music. I've been able to be in plays. I've been able to I don't know, perform on a level I never thought I could. And, every day I get to chase the next adventure, the next dream, set a new goal, better myself, try new things. I've been able to produce this show, produce this podcast. Which, luckily, I mean, if we go in quarantine, I might start trying to do more of these podcasts more frequently. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how severe this gets. The thing is, we don't know. They're talking it's going to last till July? Is it going to get worse? Are we going to get more and more isolated? Or, we don't know. We don't know. And, but I don't know, I'm grateful. I want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me or been there for me or been even encouraging. You have no idea, because a lot of times what I do feels unessential and it feels frivolous and, not like service. Seems selfish, not like service. And I try to live my life in a way that serves my community. But every time somebody's been like, good job, or I liked your set, or thank you, or wow, that was a great performance, or it really moved me, or maybe thought, every reaction, every time somebody's taken the time to share their reaction with me, I'm grateful for that, and thank you for that. And it's been very enriching to this whole experience, which has been a great life, I'm thankful for this life. It's been a good one, and honestly, if I were to die, I think I'd be at peace, knowing that I'd led a life well lived, as short as it's been. It's been a good life. And I hope everybody can say that. I hope, be grateful for the time you have. Try to let go of the greed of wanting more time, but appreciate think back. What are your favorite memories of your life? What are your greatest accomplishments? I'd love for people to share them with me. I'd love to get some stories going, learn more about my audience. But, thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody. It's, in this time of fear, I'm just trying to hold on to gratitude and love. That's how I find peace. And I'm grateful to be able to share this with you. So today we got the Robert podcast coming up. My good friend Robert, who I went to college with, and was one of my favorite people to sit down and talk to. This is a great podcast. But fair warning, we do talk about our genitalia a lot in the beginning. More so, as I listened back to it, I was like, oh man, this is a lot of this. I think it's funny. I think we make some logical points about hygiene and fashion and how we could improve the situation down there. But just fair warning, if you're not into listening to a couple of dudes talk about their balls for like 20 minutes, you might not like the beginning of this podcast. It might not be for you. Fair warning. But I think we talk about lots of interesting things. So here we go. Let's kick into it. Thanks for tuning in. Here's the podcast with my friend Robert Britton. Oh, wait, I can't press. I always feel like I can press the space bar and turn the video off, and it's like, no, I have to click stop capture. And I don't know when I'm going to get good at that and, remember that. But, that was me being an idiot. So, here we go. Robert Britton. All right, here we go.
So I didn't get a text back from you when I was also pretty drunk when I sent this text a month ago about the calling you to discuss like a super annoying British voice. Did you get that text?
No, no.
Okay, so I've still been thinking about it a lot, is the idea of like Shakespeare, but with like awful, stereotypical like accents.
Oh yeah, like.
Just like, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this penny pie, and like,
When the sun rises in the east, we shall banter till it sets in the west.
see, but that was like kind of good though. You have to do it like,
You have to do it shitty.
yeah, like in that kind of James
Like,
Macy, like,
and I'm doing Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
like, I don't know. I was thinking of like a sketch series of like just doing scenes from Shakespeare, but they come in and then oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as beautiful as this moon overhead, or whatever.
But it's about random shit, perhaps, like just like getting coffee at a Get and Go.
No, it's like they're doing Shakespeare, but everyone has this terrible.
Terrible.
Accent.
It's like we can't just use our own voices.
Like, yeah, you can't just speak in your regular or get accents or
It can't even be-
actors that have like good dialect.
It
like,
can't be a British accent. It has to be bad Shakespearean accent.
Yeah,
Everybody has one.
Yeah, and just everyone. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? And you're like, what? Why is Juliet talking like this?
Yeah.
And then it's never addressed. And then but if you did that as a series of just like major scenes from Shakespeare.
the American anthology of
Yeah.
the Shakespeare scenes.
Like,
Must know Shakespeare.
it's like you do it with the intention of it looking like people that didn't
Trained.
know anything about Shakespeare, but were like, well, I've seen things,
Yeah, so
I'll do it.
I see the movies.
And it's like trying to figure out like, well, how do we have a skull? And they're like, well, I don't know how to get a skull, so they just have like a deer skull for Hamlet or something, or just like, this work. But they know all the lines. They know everything that's going on, and especially if you got like period accurate costuming and stuff. So
Well,
it's
I mean,
like,
that's-
wow, these people really know a lot about Shakespeare, but they are really fucking bad.
I mean, that's the tough. What do you mean by period accurate? Because I feel like that's the part that, I mean, even in the when they were doing them, like, or for the first time, they were just using whatever was around. Like, it wasn't historically accurate. I mean, they would say it was Italy, but they were wearing the same shit they would wear.
Okay.
No matter where, so I mean, it's tough to. I feel like
If you're
that's.
gonna go watch a Shakespearean play, you have an idea in your head of what it's gonna be like.
I suppose, like with the Elizabethan
yeah,
style costume.
yeah, cod pieces. As long as there's cod pieces.
As long as there's cod.
That's the main thing that anyone.
Cover up those dicks, man.
I think out of anything we can take away from Shakespeare is the cod pieces should make a return.
I mean, our dicks are vulnerable,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm not comfortable with that.
Plus,
I need a little more protection.
Were cod pieces stuffed?
What did you say?
Were cod pieces stuffed?
Oh, were they stuffed? I don't know.
Because I like to think, like, imagine if your junk was also surrounded by, like, just a bunch of down feathers.
Oh, it keeps your dick warm? I feel like that'd be bad. The whole point of your balls hanging down is to...
I was thinking softness.
Well, yeah.
Just
Softness is
something
good.
like, oh, that feels nice.
Oh, yeah.
I bought this underwear that I just needed underwear and was looking for like the cheapest on Amazon, and I bought this Fruit of the Loom underwear that was like comes with a mesh cooling pouch in the. I was like, whatever. Like, I use shit. And now I'm like, this is the most comfortable fucking underwear I've ever.
I mean, there's a lot of sweat and some stuff that get builds up down there, and you get like.
And I don't even know how much I care about that part, or if it's just like.
I bet it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
So many times in the workday, am I just like, oh, my balls.
Yeah.
Or my ass cheeks, and they're just chafed up. Like, dealing with gooch moisture is like it's something we don't want to talk about, but something we should talk about because it's an issue.
Well, the thing that I liked about the way they did is they were like, it's just a mesh cooling pouch, because every company
more breathable
has to make it this big fucking ballroom jeans. Mesh pouch for your junk, and like there's fucking like soaps that are like giant bars of soap that are like this is man size, like alright, like or just bathe. Like, Jesus. Like,
I like fruity smelling shit, man.
exactly.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, you saw my fucking hand soap is raspberry and vanilla. Like
yeah.
I don't want to
Who wants to smell like Old Man?
Like,
I don't want to smell like Old Spice. I mean, I do sometimes.
I mean, there's elements to
sometimes
it that
I'm
are
going
also
for that.
nice,
But that's the age we live in, where you can decide what you smell like, and that's a fucking miracle.
yeah, I just don't understand like why I would. It's weird whenever anything approaches a discussion of like male hygiene and stuff, that it's gotta be like, well, we made sure there was enough room for your fucking giant balls. And I'm like, sure, bro.
Well, I mean, if there wasn't enough room, you would take issue with that.
Yeah.
You know.
But like, one jean company makes ones that are specially designed for, but really what they are is they have a gusset built in, which is like a little diamond shape on the bottom part of the seam under your crotch, so that if you crouch down, your pants won't fucking rip.
Well, that's important.
But make it about like the utility of the work that you can do with it, not about your fucking nuts.
I want to fucking look hot. I'm going to wear the skinniest jeans ever.
Yeah,
People are going to stare at my ass, and I'm not going to bend over for shit because I'm too good for that, Robert. Those are the jeans I want.
That's true.
Not always, but skinny jeans are a thing. People wear them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes in line with,
like I think a lot of people look great.
Opposite philosophies of how you dress per the occasion, If I'm dressing to look good, I'm going to be uncomfortable. If I'm dressing to get some work done, I want room for my balls. That's really, I think, our message.
Yeah, I guess that kind of fits. Maybe it's just more presentation than it is.
Well, I mean, like comfort, or if I'm sleeping or I'm lounging, I don't want something super tight. Like, look at us now, we're wearing pajamas, because obviously we want to be comfortable. I never understood that, like why you didn't just wear pajamas all the time.
Well, this is when actually I'm dressed up for you because I have.
You have pants on. Yeah, you have pants on. That is a step up.
I'm wearing a sleeve shirt, so it goes down. Usually, second I come home.
No pants.
Everything's off.
Yeah. You live alone. Why would you wear clothes?
Yeah, well, I mean, I sleep naked, and, like, and so when I come home, everything comes off right away, and I put the sleep shirt on, and then that's it. And if I know I ordered a pizza or something, I'll put the sleep pants on, because I don't really want to deal with, like...
Yeah, somebody being like, oh, wow, you're not wearing any pants.
Yeah.
Or if it was in one of those sketches, oh, thou art wearing no pants.
Yeah. And then, but it's so great, because then, like, you only have that on, so you basically feel naked the whole time. And then when I go to bed, it's just...
That's what I mean, like, it's
flip
important.
it off.
It's important to keep your balls cool. I mean, that's why they dangle.
Yeah.
Right? They're not in us because they need to catch a breeze. Like, pants in general. Like, the whole women wear skirts but men wear pants thing. I mean, anatomically, when you think about it, biologically,
well,
it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like the Assyrians or Babylonians or something like that.
Or the Scots.
Did it, well, but that's like...
I'm a different thing.
I'm talking about an older culture, though. Even than that was how they did it, is the women did wear pants.
It makes more sense. Why wouldn't they be the ones wearing pants? Of course they would be more... They don't give a fuck. Tighten that shit up around the crotch. They don't give a shit. We're the ones with dangly bits. Why are we restricting our genitalia?
Well, there is a point at which the size of your legs becomes a factor in my mind. That's why
You mean with pants?
Like, no, like with underpants and like skirt type thing. Like, because I wear boxer briefs specifically to avoid like that chub rub of the thighs,
So you don't want it too free.
Yeah, because I can
You don't
tell.
want it flopping around, is kind of what you're saying.
Sometimes, obviously there's a time and place for everything. But I mean, like,
True.
But...
Well, because I think that I would think if you had big legs that you would want a skirt as opposed to pants, or...
Yeah, and no. I'm not talking about... I'm saying that when they rub together.
Oh,
chafing.
Oh,
so
putting a barrier in there to...
Having something that keeps it,
Yeah.
So these underwear that I bought are even extra long leg boxer briefs, so they go down even further. And, I mean, I've always said, what are you doing with boxers? Grow up and just buy boxer briefs like an adult.
I do like boxer briefs. I don't
Like-
like boxers. They ride up. They're weird feeling. Usually I fall out the hole
And
because
to
it's
me-
like, you know, if they don't have the button, it's like
Yeah.
like what?
And to me, it comes back to, again, this idea of, like, trying to say, like, I gotta have room for the boys to breathe, you know. And you're like,
Yeah, but if you got
really?
pants on, what are those boxers?
How much breath are you getting out of jeans? Pretty solidly made for.
I mean, for when they make compression shorts for when you do sports and stuff. And that I get. If you're going to be running and jumping, if you're going to be playing basketball, you don't want your dick just flopping about all willy-nilly.
If you do some stuff in the compression short, it is, like, surprisingly comfortable to just.
Like, secure your package.
Like, if you're, like, playing football or something, like, it's nice to just, like, there's no, like, you know, pulling out that wad of gum and stuff.
What a go! What the fuck?
You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Why are you getting gum in your?
You just gotta, like, grab some of the skin of the sack and
Oh,
readjust.
oh yeah, readjustment. I was
Like-
like, what a gum, dude! Like, I don't know what's going on.
If you have a pull on your epididymis.
Yeah,
I only know that word because of you, so.
because of
Because of
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never seen Ghostbusters 2,
I think they prefer my epididymis.
so I only know because of you
How have
telling
you
me.
never seen Ghostbusters 2?
I've never seen Ghostbusters 1, man. I saw, like, the first half of it. And then, you know, we went on a roadie or something and I never came back to it. And I was like, whatever. Like,
Okay, well,
I haven't seen anything.
I
man.
have to. I'm not gonna be that guy because I hate it when people are like, "How have you not seen?" And I'm like, "Do you know how many movies there are?" Like, sorry, I didn't make time for the movie you were talking about right now. But Ghostbusters is. I mean, even if you never watched Ghostbusters 2, you should probably watch Ghostbusters 1 because I think it's worth it. I think it's worth watching Ghostbusters 1.
Yeah.
Were you not intrigued by the first half of the movie?
The more interesting character was fucking Rick Moranis. He's way more interesting than the Ghostbusters were.
But he's still in it. It's not like he's not a central figure of the movie.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Like, it's not like he goes away. Like, who cares? He's still... Yeah, he's an interesting character. Here's my pitch for Ghostbusters. For anybody who has not seen Ghostbusters. It's like...
It's probably just me.
It's just... No, there's... I mean, there's gotta be some, like, younger people out there who haven't seen it. You know, there's lots of people that haven't seen Ghostbusters. But if you haven't seen Ghostbusters, see Ghostbusters.
I mean, I made it to 32 and done just fine with my life.
It's a great movie, man. It's like all the genres in one. It's an action movie, it's a sci-fi movie, it's a romance movie, it's a scary movie. Like, it's all the movies in one movie. Like, I think it's one of the most genius flicks ever made. I definitely recommend it to anybody. If you like movies, I mean, it's
Hell,
not
if
essential, dude. Nothing's essential. If you're going about your life and you're happy and you've never seen Ghostbusters, who gives a fuck? But if you like movies and you haven't seen Ghostbusters, I think you oughta.
And if you ever thought to yourself, I wonder what it would look like to see Dan Aykroyd get a blowjob,
Buy a ghost.
Ghostbusters. There you go.
Yeah. It's such a
That's
weird
the
scene.
endorsement.
It's such a weird scene. They cut every other part of that sequence. Like, there was like a weird storyline that they filmed, and they cut like
Yeah.
most of it except
They
this
left
one
in that.
scene.
Yeah.
It was funny though.
But it's such an odd...
It is weirdly. It's a weird scene. It's an unnecessary scene
yeah.
for sure.
Well, yeah, of course. But
but it's funny.
no, I think the last time we talked, I told you I thought about even doing a podcast called I Haven't Seen It. In which
watch it for the first time.
No, in which I never watch movie. I don't watch any of the movies that I've never seen, but I have people come on and explain the movie, tell me the movie.
Tell you, should we do that now?
Like, no, I mean, we should do...
Well, we could do
so-
Ghostbusters, right? I mean,
Well,
you've seen
of
half
course.
of it, though.
But I mean,
Or should we do Ghostbusters 2? Because you haven't seen any of that.
yeah, I just know the dude that's in the painting.
Let's do it. Let's do Ghostbusters 2. Okay.
Is his name Viggo?
Yeah, Vigo.
Okay, so if I want to see Viggo, and you get to choose between Ghostbusters 2 or all three Lord of the Rings, going with Lord of the Rings. Viggo Mortensen.
You mean like you're on Netflix?
They only have the 2 and 3 now. I can't.
How do they not
don't
have
understand.
Fellowship of the Ring?
I don't know. Okay, they had Fellowship for a whole year.
Yeah.
I sat at Justin's house, woke up one morning, he's sleeping or whatever, and I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to watch Fellowship of the Ring since apparently it's on Netflix. So just sat at someone else's house, watched a 3-hour movie, and then went home, thinking when I get home,
I'm going to watch the next
I'm going to watch 2 and 3. This is going to be my day. I get home, I'm like, why can't I find 2 or 3?
And now they have the other
And
two.
then I Googled, and...
There was a while where they had all 3.
And then it was, just 1 was on there. I was like, well, that's weird. And so then, one day I got on, I'm rarely ever on Netflix, but like, I got on, I was like, 2 and 3 are on here. Awesome. All right, I'm going to start at the beginning. And they took Fellowship off the same day that they added 2 and 3. And I'm like, what's the point of this?
Business is business. I guess they assumed everybody had already seen one. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but I can't believe at this point, that's like, what, 2001, 2, and 3? And I still haven't actually just bought them. Like, I need to just buy them. Like, I planned on buying them a long time, like ever since they came out, and I've never bought them. And so, like, that's such a weird thing to... As much of a fan of those as I am, I mean, I have all 4 of the fucking Burger King goblet mugs sitting up there from 2001, sitting in my house right now. You can see them; they're on display.
But you don't own the movie.
And I don't own the movies. I have all of the books sitting in my bedroom, next to my table, like most people, next to my bed, like most people keep a Bible. I keep a hard copy of all the Lord of the Rings in one.
Does that include The Hobbit?
No, I have. So I had that 4 edition one that has The Hobbit and then the 3, and somehow got wet. I guess leaked on the roof of my mom's house or something.
I think.
So now I have one book, one volume that's all 3, just one book. So I was at my mom's visiting, and I went to the library, and I was talking to the librarian there. Small town. She knew me and stuff. And I was looking at books they had just got in because she was like classifying everything, putting numbers on everything to be checked out. And so I was like, oh, wow, my Lord of the Rings is ruined. I'd love to reread Lord of the Rings. She was like, oh, you can just take it now, and then when you get done with it, you can bring it back. I know who you are, and I'll just then put it into the system. And I was like, okay, great. And so I took it. Never got around to reading it for a long time. And then, like, a couple months later, she got fired. And she was the only person that knew that it had been in and that I had taken it. So I was like, well, I guess...
You kept the book?
I guess I just own this then.
You stole Lord of the Rings from the library?
Oh. Because no one's...
No one's stolen Lord of the Rings before.
No, I didn't have my copy, and I was like, well, I want to have it still. I don't like not owning it.
I know my mom has like a hard copy. It's like this big red book. I hope we still have it. I haven't seen it in a while, but I know we used to have like this ornate copy of Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, and there was like a guide, like a dictionary of Elvish in the back of it.
Oh shit!
And
see, and did you read like the Silmarillion and everything? I never read.
I've never read any of it.
Oh,
we had the book, but it was one of those books that's
I guess
like, you know how there's some books that are like too pretty to read.
Yeah.
Like you can't. This is a decorative book. We're not really gonna read this book.
I've only bought the first, but so they started a couple years ago making house editions of the Harry Potter books as re-releases.
Oh yeah.
So like I bought Sorcerer's Stone Hufflepuff edition, so it's like black and yellow printed and stuff.
Yeah, I'm a Hufflepuff. I love Hufflepuff.
And then I'm like, all right, I'll buy Chamber and Prisoner, and I haven't bought them yet. But I have Sorcerer's Stone on my shelf over there, but it's still in the plastic. Like I have, and I'm like,
it's a decorative.
And it's like, well, I mean,
it's for the.
I've read them.
This is just to
am I gonna open this just to
fuck it up? Because I destroyed because I pride myself on 4 through 7. I'm pretty sure I don't know what qualifies as a first edition, but I mean, like, I got like the mail me as soon as it's available edition book, or like the midnight I'm at the store book. So I feel like 4 through 7 I don't know if that necessarily qualifies as first edition because I'm sure there's some elitist bullshit like that was released before I got a copy of it. But like, like those 4 books to me are real sentimental, and 4 especially is like broken because I feel like they mass produced these books because there was such demand for them, especially like the early, that like the binding wasn't very strong. So like, and 4 is huge, and I'm this kid, and I'm like, I read it like 4 times, and I'm like holding it above me in bed, and the weight of the book as I'm like holding it splits the binding. So like, some of my midnight at the bookstore Harry Potter books are not in great shape, even though they're like the hard copy, but I don't care. Like now I have soft like paperbacks. I mean, to read, and I just the hard copies, even like the ones that are in bad shape, I just keep as for decorative posterity. I don't read them anymore.
That's my mom was I don't remember if it was the library in her town or if it was the one in Indianola. They got in, or they were getting rid of, or for whatever reason, a shit ton of the Redwall books. Which you never read those either, right? When you were a kid, the Redwall books, like the Brian Jakes books.
I never read the books. I watched the cartoon on PBS.
Yeah,
but I never read the books.
I knew you watched the cartoon. So Tyler and I read the books a lot. And then one day she called me. This was when I was like my last semester in college, when I only had like the 2 classes. And I'm about to go into my social theory class, and my mom calls me at like 6:40. And I'm going to class at 7. This was when I was going to school and then going to the radio after class to work overnight.
I remember that.
And she calls me. She's like, I'm at the library and they're selling a bunch of books off, and they have all these hard copies of the Redwall books. Would you be interested? And I was like, I'm pretty broke, but yeah, like I definitely would. And she was like, well, they're selling them for like $3, but they said if I can buy them all, they'll just give them to me for like $10. So I got like 12 hard copy
Redwall books. I remember seeing those. Yeah.
And now they're out on a shelf, and like, I'll probably just read them at times because it's easy to pick up. That's my original copy of Redwall. I'll even just grab it and show you. But like, it's so beat up because I just kept it in a backpack or wherever I was going because it was like, well, I know I love this book, and if I'm ever sitting somewhere, I can just read it.
Yeah.
And like, it's got the covers ripped up and stuff, like, but it's there, and I'm like, I just love this. And so it is nice to just have these like hardcover big ass books, because I always would get
there's something, it's about the status of it, right? Like,
well, and I hate, that's why I don't have any books, is I hate the status of being a book owner. I don't buy books.
Fuck that. We'll embrace the status. We got such a library in my house.
Yeah, it's so fucking shitty. I hate it. It's because
what's wrong with owning books? Really, you gonna shit on owning books right now?
They're all free at the library, man. Go.
Well, whatever. Like, what if somebody had a poster up of something they liked? It's not about like. It's just about, this is my passion. This is what I like.
What do you have the poster up for? When people come over, they see it and say, oh, you like this. When people come over, they see your books and say, oh, this guy reads. It's not about you enjoying reading. It's about people seeing you reading.
It's about communicating who you are and celebrating what you love. What's wrong?
I know you guys got a ton of books. And like Justin has a ton of books. I know.
I'm not, of the books that we have in my house. I've read
most of them are the wives.
Yeah, it's the wife, and she hasn't read them either. It's just she has a thing where like if they're gonna throw them away or like she has to rescue them. So a lot of our books are like from libraries, like, and she's just like.
See, and that's kind of that's like a different thing, But like I sold a bunch of my books because I was like, you know what, like these can go to other people then. And that's when I read a book, if I'm like, I really like this book, then I give it to someone and say, here, take this book. This is yours now.
That's what I love about those like free library things where you can like leave a book.
And take a book or, whatever. Yeah. But I like to just say like, I like this book, read it. Then when you're done reading it, now I know at least one person I can talk to about this book. Yeah,
and then maybe they'll give it to somebody.
Give it to someone else, and then eventually all 20 of us have read this book.
Yeah, but no, there's like the internet now, and sometimes owning a book is, in this day and age, is more for, I love this book so much I wanted a paper copy of it, and it's ornate to celebrate it. That's kind of why you got the Hufflepuff thing, right?
Well, and the ones I have are. I sat and I was like, how long do I need to keep this book or this book? So the ones that have like sentimental value or some reason behind them, I still have those. But like just having books to have books is like, you know, you can go to your library and get it for free,
or
and
just read it on your Audible thing, or
and it makes me read more then, because it's not like, well, I own it, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I have 3 weeks, like I need to just read it.
I gotta give it some.
Okay, I've got to read it.
Yeah.
You know? And I started. There's this app called Libby that is connected to libraries all over the country. If you're a member of whichever library, that lets you put holds on books, but also lets you just download audiobooks directly to your phone. So you don't have to deal with like the Kindle bullshit or like Audible, which is, I don't know who the fuck's paying for Audible. What a ripoff. But $15 a month.
I want someone to read to me, Robert.
Well, no. $15 a month for one book.
What?
You get one book with Audible, and then you get an Audible original, which is like a short story.
Wait, $15 a month? But do you like get to trade out that book, or
no? You get one book a month.
No, yeah.
So with this Libby app, you can download audiobooks from your library, your public library.
Oh, your public library. Well, yeah.
And so I have now, because I work where I normally listen to podcasts all day.
Yeah.
Now I've gone through, since December, like, I think it was like 19 books.
Wow. Well, so what have you learned from the books that you've ingested?
All sorts of stuff. I mean, some of it, I try to split it up and go with like, oh, now I'm going to listen to a novel. Now I'll listen to nonfiction, and back and forth. Not...
Makes sense, yeah.
Because, and if I finish a book that day, I don't jump into the next one. That way I like process it a little bit, you know? Because I tried that with like...
What you recommend? What's been something you've enjoyed?
The last one that I thought was like the best is this book called An American Marriage, which came out in 2019. The reason I got it is that the author is going to be speaking in Des Moines in March. And so I was like, oh, that'd be pretty dope if I read a book and then got to go see the author talk.
Yeah.
Or listen to a book. I don't say I read the book when I listen to it. Like,
well, I mean, what's wrong with that?
But I'd like to specify.
I didn't read it.
I sat and listened to it, but it was made. It's a novel, but it's about a black family in the South in like modern day. It takes place from like 2000 to 2017 or something like that. But so obviously there's like race relations and stuff with it and stuff and things like that. But it's very good. It's just a novel. Like, it's a work of fiction, but it's very good. This week I finished Sapiens, which is like pretty big book
about the evolution,
about the history of humanity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot covered in it.
We're here now. I could have written that book. Yeah, we're a species.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. So, but it's cool.
Well, what insight did you gain from the history of humanity? Like, anything? What was the point of that, really?
In that case, I had heard a lot of people talking about the book already. So a lot of the stuff that I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I've also heard this discussed in other podcasts and stuff, like points that come up that I'm like, oh yeah. And some of it's just like stuff that, because it's all about going from a primitive type society to then having an agrarian reform and becoming an agricultural society and then expanding.
Learning to manipulate our environment as opposed to
well, and
just like hunting and gathering.
And that's a book that has a big part of you've probably heard that, like, that concept of like, we didn't domesticate wheat domesticated us, because we used to live where we would hunt and gather, move around and shit, and then we started farming, but that required, so it all comes from wheat, and so then that required us to have water for the wheat and weed the plants around the wheat and till the plants, and and so then we had to stay in one place. And so there's like, the book approaches it in a way that's, he tries not to make things sound too idyllic, because people do that a lot with when they think about hunter-gatherers. Like, wouldn't it be easier if we went back, that Dunbar number, 150, kind of stuff. Like, wouldn't it be easier if we went back to this kind of society? It's like, yeah, but also, like,
a lot of us would die.
Like, if you fall down, like, you're just dead.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of us. Like, maybe too many of us. Do you think there's too many people?
I can't believe this. I have to pee again already. God damn it.
All right. Well, this is an important question.
But it'll pick me up, right?
Let's just take a break. We'll come back and
you want to pause?
Yeah, we'll just take a pause and then we'll come back to this. I mean, do you think there's too many people?
Well, as far as like, I read a thing that said that like, if you were to put all of the people together, like in Texas, all the people in the world in Texas, it would have the population density of New York. So that makes me like, no, then not at all. Like, then we'd have the whole rest of the globe to.
Yeah, but like, there's also like all the other life forms and stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
like,
because then you're getting into like kind of that Malthusian kind of idea of like, population control will take care of itself because of sicknesses and death
but
and
if
stuff.
but
then we advanced faster than Malthus would have thought we could, so we don't have as much disease killing people off and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I actually think about it quite a bit, because it is the idea of like, if we want to become a type 1 society, you have to have a certain amount of people that will get along, and so then it's like, well, maybe we have too many people to all get along, because we can't become a type 1 society if we don't get along. But then also it's like, the finite resources aren't necessarily as finite as we think they are. And then we're seeing population decline in terms of more people having less kids. And so I think in like a lot of Northern European countries, the population growth is actually like -1 right now. Because people are getting married and then not having a kid. And then...
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're not having kids.
And we're not having kids as much. And then, of course, China did the one-child program trying to slow that down a bit, which has then now backfired because those people are now aging and they're old and they don't have enough kids to help take care of them.
Same thing happening over here, too. Baby boomers.
It will eventually. Not as much yet, but like will potentially. So then the thing, I mean, for me personally, this is just a thought, is I actually think that humanity is just a step in terms of evolution on like a universal scale. I understand that doesn't sound nice because we're humans and everything, but I'm fine with humanity just ending, like not like catastrophically, but just like let's
moving on to
roll out of like. We'll die off.
Develop into...
No,
mutate.
We'll die off.
Oh,
and then whatever is the next evolution. Dinosaurs were around, they died off.
We died.
Giant mammals came around, they died off, then we became a thing.
There's ice ages and shit. Because I think about that too, like... Because part of me is like, well, aren't we just winning? I mean, I guess it sucks that we're killing off all these other these species and life forms, but like... I mean, it seems to be kind of in our, like really instinctively, we're just following this impulse to like make more food and fuck, and that seems to just kind of be our nature. And who are we to deny that? Who are we to say that's wrong, even if it leads to our eventual demise? I mean, I guess that's the thing, right? We're cognizant of this thing. We're more aware of time than seemingly, I guess, other things. Is that what makes us human? Is that we have this perception or this awareness of our perception of time?
Yeah, I would guess. But I mean, like if it's true that like, dolphins have larger cerebrums than us, it's like maybe they're just a step back on other evolution, and they'll be the thing that becomes
we'll warm the planet, the oceans will expand, and dolphins will take over, and we'll die off.
So it's very weird. I don't ever talk about this that much with people or anything, but it's very weird because it sounds negative to people because you're like, you want human beings to die off? I'm like, yeah, but don't think of it like that. I'm thinking in terms of the universe. I want things to get better for the universe, which means maybe we have a new species come in And isn't that pretty cool that we were a step in that? Think about how cool it is to see a dinosaur skull.
Yeah.
How cool will it be for the next thing to see a human skull and be like, I wonder what they did. What were they like?
Oh, they jacked off constantly.
Yeah, and then that thing becomes the thing that moves out into, the cosmos. So I'm looking at it from a cosmological scale, which doesn't make me like the best humanitarian in some aspects, because then you're like, well, in the grand scope of things, 15 billion years, maybe this won't matter.
I mean, humans are okay.
Yeah. And I mean, every science fiction movie would have you believe that they're great and worth saving from some other alien planet that's like, well, we were the ones that made that, so of course we have to make that story. There aren't really a lot of science fiction stories that are like, actually...
On the other hand, though, there's no real evidence of sentience anywhere else. So maybe there is something precious about us that maybe we should take seriously.
That's my biggest thing, is because everyone, is always like, well, it seems selfish to think in all the universe and the billions and trillions of space that we're the only ones. It's like, actually, I think the reality is it's pretty scary to think.
Yeah, that we are life. That maybe we are the seed and we're supposed to... we're supposed to develop to a point where we propagate with the universe, maybe.
Maybe, or just the terrifying fact of, we're an anomaly and
there is nothing else.
There's nothing else out there. Because that's way scarier than, what if there's something out there? What if there's nothing out there? Jesus.
I mean, if the universe is infinite, then you kind of have to believe that it's possible that, it's infinite in the fact that we're unique. Mm-hmm. And everything else is completely different. There is we're not looking, there's no Star Trek verse of... But, the thing is, in Star Trek, they talked about how there was a species that developed to the point where they could explore the cosmos, and they didn't find anything else. And that's where all these different species came, when, all the Romulans and the Klingons and the Cardassians and all these, bipedal, five-fingered hominids or whatever that, populate the Star Trek verse are actually all descended from the same species that originally, ventured out into space exploration, and we're like, yeah, I guess we're it.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, there is.
So I mean, it could be us, man. The conditions were just right here.
But to, I guess, say an answer to your question in general of, no, I actually don't think there's too many people. I know that you're supposed to.
You think that we're at a good amount. You think we could do more people?
Yeah, I think, isn't it 10 million's the limit that
I don't know.
Some people project. And the thing is a matter of, this is part of what becomes important about becoming a type 1 society, is we already know that we make more food than we could ever need, because we have one country at least that a bunch of people are big fucking fat people. And then we have other countries where people are starving. It's like, well, I bet we could balance this out.
Yeah, somehow.
If we fucking
share some tried to.
Yeah, we tried to. And it's the big thing.
Type 1, is that interstellar or interplanetary?
It's not even interplanetary. It's what's required. This is where you become issues of conspiracy people, because it becomes a one world government. But it's not about governing. It's about a unified planet. And then that's when they really have the ability to become interplanetary.
I was thinking about this past couple weeks. I've been on tour, because I think about Europe, my time when I studied abroad, and how it's man, I took a 2-hour train ride and I'm in France, and over here people speak it differently. From when I was studying in London, I went to France, and it's wow, what a short amount of time, and people are speaking a different language, and there's different cuisine, different kinds of art and culture, and this, Europe in general, it's the nation states that make up Europe, have such more diversity and within a smaller volume of geography. And then over here you get the United States, and it's just huge. People over
with a ton of diversity.
There's a ton of diversity. And granted, a lot of people were slaughtered. Sorry, people that got slaughtered.
Yeah.
But I was just in Florida, like this, in the past couple weeks. I went from Minnesota, because 2 hours in Minnesota, you're still in Minnesota.
Yeah. 6 hours.
I drove 20 hours from Orlando to here, and it was all the same language.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, man, that was convenient, not having to learn new languages.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the road laws were all the same. I mean, there's different laws state to state, but in general, it's pretty much the same. And that's really, really convenient. Like, I have such divided feelings about imperialism, because on the one hand, I want to respect culture, I want to allow people to be diverse, I want to allow for a diversity of thought and creativity and language and history, but on the other hand, it's like, god damn it, it's really fucking a bitch to learn 2 languages. Yeah. It's kind of nice that I can just speak the same language and travel for a day and not have to worry about it.
Well, I think that was the point of Esperanto, was the idea of, what if we make a one world language that everyone speaks, which English kind of pretty much already is,
I mean, they were the best at being imperialistic, so they did the best job of teaching everybody their language. It's not the best language necessarily. It's honestly kind of a shitty language. But, yeah, everywhere I've been, Europe, pretty much everybody speaks English. You got Australia. Even in Asia now, people are speaking English.
I think it's a pretty dope language, though.
I mean, it's fine.
It's difficult to learn, but
it's difficult to learn.
Pretty dope considering how much Germanic and Romantic influence it has.
It's just it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not logical, and there's a lot of things about it that there's no rules to it that you can follow. Right? That's what they teach it. And whatever. All languages are kind of complicated. Understanding life and communicating is complicated. I mean, I don't know if I would have picked English out of all the languages, but if that's the one that it is, then fine. But I'm just saying that, in me, I feel divided about the idea of, because, I'm very individualistic. I'm very pro-diversity. I'm very pro-individualism, I guess. But on the other hand, I am also pro the convenience of a certain amount of conformity is convenient and helpful. I'm pro going to the metric system. I don't give a fuck about feet. Let's just get with it so that it all makes sense to us.
Kind of wish we did biblical though. I'd love to measure shit in cubits and stuff. Pretty sure a cubit is from your fingertip to your elbow.
Yeah, but not everybody has the same.
Exactly, so it's awesome because then nothing's the same. Everything in a span. I think if you spread your hands
from your
out,
pinky to your thumb.
Pinky to your thumb is a span.
Yeah.
And then it goes on from there. But I mean, it's we just measure everything right here. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. All right, that's 3 cubits long.
That's 3 cubits. I need at least 7 cubits.
Yeah, you need 7 cubits of wood. I'll measure it myself.
We could just change the name, I guess.
Yeah.
But the point is, standardization, I think, is a good thing.
See, then that's part of what leads to, I'm not explaining well, but that's part of what leads to a type 1 society, is where the whole planet
is.
You have to get the planet.
We have a planetary language, a planetary system of measurement, a planetary understanding.
We're aligned, and now we can move to other planets.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a type 2 society, in which then they have control within a solar system, and then a type 3 society, interstellar, and then intergalactic, it builds.
Yeah.
And so, but the problem is going from Earth, which is right now a type 0 society, to a type 1 society.
Where we're all together.
That's the biggest hurdle. And that part, I don't see that happening in my lifetime or anything, but I understand the implications that happen behind that. But it's the same thing with the food. It's when you get the wrong people making the decisions that then things become bad.
Well,
that's where the issues of certain ideologies come from. It's couldn't we just all share? It's yeah, except for one dude's gonna fuck that up for the other 100 people. If there's 100 people, 99 of them are let's get along, and then one dude's what if we don't do that?
Yeah, what if I took advantage of the situation?
Yeah.
Which is tough, because
maybe that's human nature. So that's where then it comes back to my thought of,
oh, we can't get there.
maybe we can't, so maybe it's time to die out
off.
and let the new thing come in, and maybe it will do it.
Because, I mean, life is amazing, right? Like, even if there was some sort of catastrophic event, you'd kind of think that... I mean, I don't know. Because, again, there's no evidence of life anywhere else. Is it precious or is it resilient?
Well, I mean, we found stuff that was life on Mars. I realize it's not life.
Well, I mean, you see, like, forests and stuff. Like, we devastate them, but then, like, even in Chernobyl, right, the forest is... Now that we're out of Chernobyl because we can't live there, the forest has come back.
Life finds a way. Yeah. But, I mean, like, things will continue. That's the thing, is when we always talk about, like, that'll be the end of the world. It's like, no, it'll be the end of us.
Not the world will be fine.
It'll be like a dog shaking water off its back. Just keeps on moving. Like, isn't it a problem?
And I mean, like, time's a big deal to us because we are mortal and we die in a certain amount of time. Whereas, like, the planet will, it's like, even if it takes another 6 billion years for a society to develop, like, well... The universe doesn't care about time the way we care about time. Like, time is so relative to us that, it's like, who cares?
And see, so that's what the thing is, that, like, to me, it's difficult to broach these kind of, like, ideas whenever it does come up with people, is because it sounds like I'm coming from such a negative...
It's like, no, well, eventually we'll die off in the universe.
Or nihilistic point of view. And I'm like, no.
Eventually.
Don't take it as this. Take it as, look at how free we are, because we're not the ones that have to do this.
Yeah.
All we can do is
be us.
Try to make it a little bit cooler for the people
that are here right now.
And then hopefully that'll make it a little bit cooler
for the next people.
Then whatever the next.
And eventually something will happen, and things will be, and everything's finite, right? Eventually, all of this has to end, because that seems to be the nature of us.
I assume so.
Right.
I mean, even if we're just going off of like a Big Bang Theory, and there's a beginning, then I guess there's an end, which is that whole big crunch of like.
I mean, I like endings. I've had things that never end, and I've had things that end, and I gotta say I prefer the things that end. Like, even with my job and my work, like, if I was to work at a factory, and it's just like, oh man, I worked really hard to get this pallet of parts done. It's like, well, here's another pallet, and it feels like it never ends, and that's very depressing, because I feel like no matter what I do, I'm stuck. Whereas, like, when I'm doing event setup at the resort, which is what I'm back to doing now, it's like I finish a room and the room is done. And every step I take leads towards a sense of completion. Yeah. And it's like, that is a much more gratifying feeling than, like, this is going to go on forever.
I mean, that was a problem I had in college for a while, too, is just having visual gratification. Like, you're like, well, I went to class all day. Like, what do I have to show for it? That was why Walker quit and joined the Navy, because he was like, I just want to, at the end of the day, feel like I did something.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, okay, I get it. Then like, it makes sense. Like, he was like, I didn't expect him to do it so abruptly, but like, we had a conversation where I was like, yeah, it sucks. Like, some people like go do a thing and then they feel like they accomplished something, and that's the end of the day. And we just go in and sit for 4 hours out of the day, and then come home, and that's it. And it was like, I mean, like getting.
What did I really do?
Yeah.
How did I really help anybody?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot, because like it's weird, as I've gotten to, I would say probably now I'm at like the point of being like the happiest in my life I've ever been, that I can recall. Maybe when I was like 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
riding big wheels.
That I recall being the happiest I've ever been. And so then it's made me a lot more intrigued by like what could have been, if there's this idea of multiple dimensions, or like if you made one choice different, or this a couple different choices different, the person that you would be now. Mm-hmm. I'm like very intrigued by it a lot lately, not in a regretful like I wonder if I could have been somebody, but like in like I wonder what that dude's like, and because I've been thinking a lot about lately, like I almost didn't go to college and went to the Peace Corps first, and I didn't do that. And so it's like, I wonder, somewhere in one dimension then there's me that went to the Peace Corps first. And then, so that dude then isn't me. He has my name and DNA, but that person's a totally different person than I am. And then there's a me, that the only reason I didn't graduate a year early is because I just was like, oh, all I need is PE. I'll just take PE and then have a really easy senior year and not do anything. And then I'll go in 2006 like a regular time frame instead of 2005. But at the time I debated like, well, I could just either get PE excused or I could take summer PE and I'll graduate in 2005 and then I'll go to college a year early. So in another timeline,
you went to college.
There's that one. And I was in college my freshman year. I was 17 the whole time, And it's like, well, what's that dude like then? Like, because he didn't have experiences that I had as a senior. So he knows what he was like. And I'm not saying like any value judgment on one's better or worse, but just like you become curious about like, oh, I didn't do this one thing that would have been a big thing. It's it's not like, oh, I bought.
But
this
what's
car.
The butterfly effect, right? Like,
Not like, oh, I bought this car and then that went this, or I made that, but like a big thing, like I didn't go to the Peace Corps or I didn't graduate early. Like, so somewhere in some dimension, there's a totally different dude. Because a big thing, I was talking to Tyler the other week about this, or last week, is I happened to Google a dude that I went to high school with. Like I just Googled him, because I don't have any social media, so I just Googled him. And I had known him, we had gone to like the same babysitter when we were like 3 or 4. And then I knew him like in high school and stuff. And we knew each other from like some church stuff, because we went to one of the youth groups in town, but he didn't go to like my church. Like we just... Well, I was friends with, I was friends with everybody in high school pretty much, but like, I still was friends with, also with the Christian kids and stuff, but like, I Googled him and his like Twitter came up, and he's married to the girl he was dating in high school. He has 3 kids. He's still like a Christian and like just living like a dope ass life. I'm like, that was exactly what I was planning on doing when I was the same age.
It's him. It sounds like that's almost seeing the different paths.
When we were seniors, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to college, and then I'm sure like the first day of college, I'll meet the girl that I'll marry, and then that'll be it. And nowhere near that at all.
Yeah.
But then I'm also like, well, I'm glad I'm not doing that. Because of who you change from those 10 or 12 years or whatever to who you become now. It's like, well, I wouldn't want to be stuck in that,
Yeah.
But that person that I might have been, maybe that would have stayed awesome, and you wouldn't think of it as stuck. So it's very interesting. That'd be like one thing that would be super, if you had like a power to like just be able to go see like what other certain timelines of yourself.
I feel like that's Doctor Who's power, right? Like he can see time, and he sees what's right and wrong. So I mean, like all these decisions that we're like, oh, is this? Like he's kind of grounded in like, no, this is the dimension that we're in, and this is what needs to happen. And there's some shit that doesn't matter, and you could do this or this, but like he can see the flow of time and what needs to be. Well, okay, I'm going to take another break because now I have to piss.
I got it too, so but let it be known that I am fine with just continuing talking and yelling, so this is all on Alex. So write your negative comments to the traveler, not to me.
Okay, so...
I don't even remember what we were talking about.
I don't remember what we were talking about either, but...
Do mushrooms and read books. That's my advice to everyone out there.
Everyone. Do mushrooms and read... I wanted to talk about tour, because I'm so excited.
Yes, you just drove in from Florida and like straight. You said you stopped and stayed in Kentucky.
Well, yeah. So yesterday morning I left from Maitland, which I think is a suburb of Orlando.
Maitland Ward is an actress who was in Boy Meets World and is now a porn star.
Oh man, the universe, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how many versions of her there are. And is it her?
Yeah.
Okay. So I left yesterday morning from Orlando, and I drove all day, got past Nashville. I slept at the Welcome Center in Kentucky, like, after Nashville on, like, Highway or Interstate 64. I have been, a lot of people are like, oh man, you have to sleep in your car? And I'm like, whoa, like, I like it. Like I made my bed. It's my bed. I honestly feel more comfortable, or I've gotten better night's sleep in my car because I'm like have made this bed for myself, and it's like my space. I don't have to worry about being in an unfamiliar space or like making imposing on someone. I'm just like whatever. I'm in my car, like and like oh man, this is weird for me because I haven't really talked about drugs much.
We didn't address like whenever there's a pause, we're drinking giant 1 liter mugs of beer. So when there's a pause, it's because we're like picking it up and balancing it, and then trying to quietly set it back down.
It's like huge beer.
This is probably the first podcast that he's recorded with where we both have swords and giant mugs of beer. So when there's an awkward pause, it's because we're drinking or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I've enjoyed a couple nights where, okay, I've pulled in, I'm ready, and I've rolled a joint, and I lay in my little bed thing, and I got like a water bottle that I ash in, and I'm just like enjoying it, because I can't smoke in my apartment with my wife. She'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. But like, I'm in my car, and there's no one to say no, and smoking a joint, laying down in your bed, right before bed, it's been a luxury that I've enjoyed. Like it seems kind of like rough and tumble to sleep in your car, but like here I am, independent, doing what I want. Like for me, it's been very luxurious. I love life on the road, and I'm glad that I was able to figure this out and be able to take this trip because it's been a very therapeutic and energizing trip for me to be able to play all these shows. I was so excited because I didn't advertise that I was going to play in Florida because I didn't have anything booked. But I got down to Florida after, honestly, the best show of the tour, and it was the least attended, in Huntsville, Sunday, at the Copper Top Dive and Dine. Night Air was amazing. The Hypnotizer, great friend of mine. I mean, he was half the reason I wanted to go to Huntsville, was just to like see the Hypnotizer again.
What kind of music does he do? Because I tried to look him up.
It's like a metal. It's like a space metal. Like it's all instrumental.
Okay.
But he's just got this. I mean, you can listen to his songs and they're amazing, but like him live, there's so many elements that you don't get if you don't see him live, because it's like there's a costumery and a physical presence and a physicality. It's almost like he's a mime. The faces he makes and the poses he's able to strike and the stories he's able to tell with his physicality. Honestly, I mean, I've seen a lot of people around the country, and he's the one where I'm like, that's the guy. He was the biggest influence on me from my DRP days of now moving to the Traveler thing. I saw the Hypnotizer, and my world changed as far as my perspective about what I could do as a solo artist, what kind of show I could put on, and
well, because I was listening to your video on your YouTube channel, Alex the Traveler, about the Escape Pod tour, and in it you were talking about how excited you see the Hypnotizer, and I was like, I'll try to look this up, but of course, Alex the Traveler, that's easy to look up on YouTube and then find you, but the Hypnotizer,
I think there's
a lot of stuff.
There's a weird spelling in that too. It's like there's a Z in there somewhere.
Looked up the Hypnotizer and I was like, maybe this is it, and I found this like 25-minute EP that was supposed to be this psychedelia type stuff, and I was like, I don't see how this would translate to live music. Like, it's a thing that I'm like, I know what this is, and I don't know that it was him, I'm just saying, like, but like, I'm like, I know what this is, like, I understand what I'm listening to in this kind of music, but this doesn't work as live music.
Well, he's a solo guy, and he uses backing tracks, but he uses them very intelligently. And he produces them all himself, and his production skills are like, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had your production skill. But like, I don't know, his shows just blow me away. Like, he is inspirational. Like, he's just, my show's a little different because I'm a singer, and
so he doesn't sing, he just
slays, dude. He just plays guitar live along with his backing tracks, and he just slays.
Cool.
And but it's like a metal. It's more metal than anything else, but like it's got sci-fi overtones, which I really like. And the whole character he's developed of like the Hypnotizer is this like alien force that like takes possession of him, because he plays Daniel Godwin is the name of the guy, and he plays in other projects. But the hypnotizer's this like alien that possesses him and comes and plays this music, and he has this he puts on cool makeup and has a cloak on most of the time, and like wears. There's a whole costume. There's some pageantry and some physicality that really, I think, are important elements of the live show. But I mean, those are 3 great acts.
I love that about performance in general, though. Is when you have the ability to have like at least 2 personalities, basically. Oh, I have the hypnotizer, and that's a thing. But also, I'm Daniel Godwin, and I have this other thing.
Yeah, I do these other bands too. But and he's just a great musician. That he has the proficiencies and all these instruments to be able to produce these tracks himself. I mean, it was really, for me, like, I'm thinking my first or second tour with DRP, and I saw him, and I was just like, oh, my eyes just opened. Like, my whole scope of what was possible was widened because of Daniel Godwin in Huntsville, Alabama. So it was fun to be able to, now that I developed the Traveler Act, to be able to go and play a show with him. And the night before, Jesse Priest, I played with him at Maggie Myers. He was good too, but he was a very different. It was amazing because it's like Jesse Priest was like a country cover act, very good, very solid, great voice, great guitar playing. But I mean, he was just not Night Era was like a EDM, like keyboard duo. They brought like an amazing light show. And I was just like, man, like, I played with, like, 3 different acts while I was in Huntsville, and it's just like, they're so different. Mm-hmm. All of them were unique, and, I don't know, it was just fun. And then I went to go see my friend Dylan in Florida, and I didn't even have any shows booked in Florida, but I had some time to go see him, and I was like, I'm going to go see him. And Dylan and I were friends from high school.
And he was like a hobo for a while.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, so, like, I didn't really...
Is it hobo? I mean, like...
I feel like hobo is the best term.
Okay, because I have an image in my head of, like, a hobo.
Well, because, I feel like when you say homeless versus hobo, it's more of a choice. Like, it's just like... And I definitely feel like for him it was a choice.
It's the stuff that Bob Dylan, like, acted like he kind of did.
Yeah, like... In the 60s. Well, I think there's a certain vagabond...
Riding the rails.
Vagrant kind of, I'm gonna wander...
It's folksy.
It's a little bit different than, like...
I don't have a home.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was just double checking.
Well, and I mean, obviously there was a lot of drugs involved with his journey.
Did you see the Fireman? Fireman? What was it?
No. Oh, Fireman. I didn't see Fireman. I didn't see him that weekend.
Okay.
Which I was disappointed by, but I mean...
Check out that video for the Escape Pod tour if you want to hear that story.
Yeah, figure out Fireman. Yeah. But it was a good weekend. I saw some good friends. Big thank you to Mel Murda for putting me up with her. She let me stay at her house with her family and stuff.
So you came down, you go to Alabama, and then you just go over to Florida.
Yeah.
You're in Orlando.
Well, I wanted to see my buddy Dylan. Yeah. And so Dylan, because I'd done some research and I'd found like an open mic that was supposed to be on like Wednesday. And that was not true information. But he had found... There was an open mic, like, next door, basically. He lived in this apartment complex, and it's just, like... across the street, there was this Copper Rocket pub, and they had an open mic Tuesday night. So the podcast that I'm going to do with him... Because I didn't really get him to really relax and open up on the... We tried to do, like, a conversation, but he was... I don't know, he was doing this, like, character, and I was like, no, man, like, I just want you to be you and, like, be honest. And I was like, so we really had a hard time. And, like, what was frustrating for me is because, like, off mic, he told me a really great story about, like, this time he was in LA and, like, was, like, sleeping on the street, and there was these pimps arguing. It's kind of what I wanted him to get into, was some of his stories from the road or lessons from the road or, like, how he turned his life around. Because, I mean, he was an addict. And I think he's still kind of a struggling addict, but he's really in a good place now and going to school. And I'm proud of him for doing something really difficult, like pulling yourself out of the cycle of doing meth. But I didn't really feel like he was in the place to talk about that, so we didn't. Mostly we just played guitar together. So the recording I got is our rehearsal on Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, that's pretty dope, though.
Before we went to the Copper Rocket Tuesday evening. So that's kind of what I'm going to release on my Patreon.
So he played with you at the Copper Rocket?
Yeah, and we did. So we went to the Copper Rocket. We did a set, which you can find on my Facebook page because we went live. And it's actually pretty good video. Because the thing is, the open mic there was more of a jam. Like, there was a drummer who played with us and a bass player who played with us for a few songs. And it was awesome. I'm so glad we got to go to the open mic and meet everybody there at the Copper Rocket. But at the Copper Rocket, the drummer guy, his name is Vid, he was like, oh, this is where you're going to want to go tomorrow. It was this place called Bombshells Tavern, which is only a couple miles from his place, too. So it was like the place that I thought I was going to play, this Austin's Coffee Cafe. The thing is, their open mic was Tuesday night, and we went to this other one because I thought that their open mic was Wednesday. But they have, like, different open mics. Like, the Wednesday night one was, like, a poetry one. So, like, the music-y one was Tuesday night, and there's a hip-hop one Monday, and there's, like, they have a comedy one, too. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I was like, man, so on a Tuesday, you have, like, your choice of open mic to go to, plus Wednesday. And as I was talking to this guy, Vid, who was playing drums with us, it kind of sounded like any night of the week, if you wanted to find some place to go play, you probably could. And I was just, like, so jealous and, like, kind of blown away by, like, the availability and the culture of live music in this area. And I was like, dude, like, you need to go do this. And what was really fun about my Wednesday adventure with Dylan is to kind of see him go from, like, because we rehearsed, and you can kind of, like, you can hear the rehearsal, but, like, after the rehearsal, he was still nervous to go to the open mic. He was like, I don't know if this is going to be good enough. Like, I don't know if we should do this. And I was like, dude, man, calm down. Like, you're going to be way happier.
That's just part of an open mic mentality, though.
He just never been before.
Yeah,
like,
so
he hadn't broken that ice. And so I was like, come on, man, let's do this. And to see him go from scared to do it to, like, really excited. And then we did it again the next night. And now he's in, like, because he had, like, booked this night at the coffee house, and he was like, I think I'm just not going to do it at the beginning of the weekend, because he's like, I'm kind of underprepared, like, it's a 3-hour, like, show that I'm supposed to put on, and, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to, like, do that. But then we went out to these open mics, and we met these people, and I was like, hey, man, why don't you ask him to play your show? Because there's this guy, Ed, who was cool. And, like, Ed was like, yeah, I'll play whatever. And so now all of a sudden he has these contacts, and he's putting this show together, and, like, so to see him go from, like, I can't do this to, like, oh, man, I totally can do this. There you go. Like, really gratifying for me and really worth it, because, like, one of the things I've been enjoying is teaching. I've started teaching private lessons in Alexandria, where I live, doing guitar lessons, piano lessons, and voice lessons. I do, like, one kid for guitar, but mostly I do voice.
Plus, you're doing lessons on your Alex the Traveler show. Like,
I've been doing that less.
But you still were going over what is a chord, there's still, like, a lot to get just out of, like, a little bit of, like, someone explaining. And,
certain things.
There's only so much you can do.
One of the things I like about the one-on-one lessons is because I do believe that, like, everybody has their own journey, especially with something like music or, like, like, it's hard to set it. For me, it's, like, freeing to, like, be like, okay, this isn't the curriculum that I have to follow, but, like, I've had my journey with it. I have my expertise in music. I get to kind of interview and get to know each student on an individual level and kind of assess, like, okay, I think this is your next step. Yeah. And, like, evaluate what their goals are and be like, okay, if this is where you want to go, this is what I think you should work on. And so I like that. I like working with a kid one-on-one. Or, it's not even a kid. I mean, some of them, I think my oldest student's like 60 and my youngest student's like 6. So.
But it's a guy that's 60. See, that's a thing that I think is important, though, is that you have someone that's 60 is like, you're not too old to, like, just make a choice. Okay, so, like, last time you were here, I was like, I'm going to start playing my mandolin. And I bought a strap for my mandolin so I can stand here and, like, learn. Because turns out when you're, like, a big fat dude, trying to play the mandolin seated is, like, you're not really anywhere for it to sit. So standing is better. But I've barely done anything with it. And then, like, lately I was like, like I said, like, when I quit drinking mostly, like, so now I'm, like, sober all the time, and I'm, like, ran out of stuff because I can't just be sedated and just watch YouTube all night.
Yeah.
So, like, and I don't love video games, so I got, like, kind of bored with stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'll just sit here in my chair and read or do a puzzle or like listen to a podcast and be like, I'm having a great time, and like just my interests shifted, but all at once.
Yeah.
Which I knew. When I made this decision to live this hedonistic lifestyle at like 21, that eventually it would grow old and you'd find a new thing, which has now become going to the gym. I'm up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym every day before work and stuff. And I started trying to do the mandolin a little bit, but of course, like, it's a loud acoustic instrument and you worry about neighbors and stuff. And I was like, I still kind of want to play the guitar, and so I've been thinking now about going back to just getting an electric guitar with one of those headphone amp plugs. And then it's just like, well, no one will hear it except for me, and I'll just play it. And I'm 32, and this is a dude that's 60 taking guitar lessons. I think, just wanted to say...
You're never too old.
Yeah, just learn a new thing if you're interested.
You're never too old. I remember at 16 thinking I was too old, and now I'm like, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, here's what I love about music school, I think,
Did you file your taxes yet? Did you do taxes as a musician, like, I don't know, an I-9 or whatever it would be that, like...
not this year, I mean...
Because you were also working at the factory. And stuff,
I did, I just haven't done my taxes this year.
Okay, alright. I was just
But I will, which is nice because you get to write a lot off.
I just think it'll be a really cool feeling when you're putting it in to say, what's your occupation? Musician. Or whatever.
Well, I have like 4 W-2s.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, this will be the first time, and then...
the thing is, because last year I took a loss on the music business, because I was, I bought some stuff. I mean, that's kind of...
money to make money.
That's kind of more what it's good for, especially if you have another job like I do, where you can kind of... Like, okay, well, I can buy this stuff that I need for my music business, and I can use it to make my other income disappear so that I don't have to pay as many taxes. I mean...
I think that's a key element of why singers, it's the best. Like, all you need is a microphone. And then just find other people that have their own instruments. And you're like, no, I'm just a singer, man.
I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. I mean, well,
But I mean, I
was trying to figure out, like, because I'm pretty sure I can write off, like, my internet bill, because, like, now that I've been doing so much stuff online and stuff.
Well, and you guys have a 2-bedroom apartment, right? Yeah, you have a 2-bedroom apartment. So you can write off, like, I think 1/3 of your rent.
Really?
Because
I have my studio in my apartment.
If it's a 1-bedroom, I think you can write off half, because you would potentially be using your living space as your working space. But I think with a 2-bedroom, it's like
1/3.
You can write off like 1/3.
Well, that's where my studio is in the second bedroom.
So it's an office.
That's where I do my videos.
Because you're working from home.
Yeah.
So. Sorry, you got the students. Didn't mean to sidetrack you, but you got your students that you've been doing and stuff.
Well, it's been fun. It's been fun to be, because I've left the high school. I don't really like working for the high school as like a coach, and so to be able to enter into like doing private lessons, where the only one accountable to me, the only one holding me accountable is my student. That is an environment where I feel like, okay, this makes sense, and I enjoy teaching, because I do enjoy teaching. But getting to go down to Florida and help Dylan kind of was like part of an extension of that, of like me being like a teacher and a mentor, and being able to be like a friend that I used to play guitar with in high school. And I mean, I saw him putting all this stuff on Facebook, and I was like, okay, well, if you're really that passionate and that interested in this, like, let's help you take the next step. And to be able to get him to like, break through that plane of like, okay, wow, look at all these opportunities, and I can go out and I can play, and look at all these musicians I could make friends with and learn from. And I don't know, it was just it was fun. I mean, so on the one hand, I've gotten to enjoy getting out and playing and making some money and seeing some friends from the old days when I was touring with DRP, but also to kind of be able to be a teacher and a helper and a mentor to an old friend. I mean,
and a friend.
It's been a good trip, and I got one more show tomorrow up in Monticello, Iowa, which I think it's Monticello. I'm not sure if it's Monticello or Monticello.
I said Monticello in my head every time I've looked at your schedule, because Monticello says to me, Jefferson's house.
Yeah.
And so, in Vermont or wherever, not Vermont, that's Montpelier. Monticello, wherever Thomas Jefferson's house was. And so I always say Monticello, which I'm sure is not right. It's
I
probably
don't,
just
yeah, I don't know.
chill.
I'll ask them when I get there. I've never been there before.
Neither have I. And I would go tomorrow, but it is 2.5 hours away. And I
gotta
was
say, like,
maybe not.
I love all the places that I've booked shows with. I feel like they've done. I mean, a lot of people have responded or seen the event. They've done a good job of trying to promote it. So I'm kind of excited to go up there tomorrow and play because I think it's going to be a good show.
But yeah, I was like thinking about like maybe I'll talk to some people and we'll surprise Alex. We'll go up and show up and say we're not going.
Yeah.
And we'll be there. And then I looked and it was like
it's by
2 hours and 40 minutes.
It's
and I was
like
like,
Dubuque,
or
dude.
you know. Not
or not.
Like,
it's like Dubuque.
Just we're not gonna do that. Like,
yeah. It'd be one thing if you're going to Iowa City, but
yeah, even like an hour and a half, I could get like 3 other people to be like, let's surprise him. But like 3-hour drive there and back is like I don't think he's gonna get that much out of a surprise. Just
well, because I mean I'm working anyway.
Yeah, like and you're working. That's the worst thing. You know, whenever you're doing any kind of performative art. And like people come to see you, and you're like, "Oh hey," and they're like, "Can we talk?" You're like, "No, I'm at work. Like I
gotta go do my thing.
One, I have to go hang out with the other my colleagues.
Yeah,
I have to do stuff with them because this is how you build those relationships. And also, like I have to have a little time to be in my mindset of like I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna perform a thing. I can't. You kind of can, you know, but at the same time,
I mean,
you're not present. At least to me.
Yeah. My show's a little different because it's a little more casual. Like when I was in Mason City and Neil came out, it's like there's a little allowance for like some inter-song dialogue or like.
But like when
banter.
Eric and Jeff and I came and watched you and stuff.
But then it's only like 30 minutes, and I'm just trying to go balls to the wall.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a 2-hour show and a 30. That's part of the difficult, or at least a skill that I think is important with what I do is. To be able to evaluate, because you have to, because a lot of, especially when I'm walking into a new venue, there's so much to evaluate, as far as like the energy of the room, the energy of the clientele, the aesthetic of the venue, the other people, if I'm playing with more than one person, like, okay, what did they play? Like how much time, like the set that I pick for like a 30-minute open mic, I mean, there's so many decisions that need to be made, and I can only make them
30 minutes is a long time for an open mic too. That's cool.
Not really. Well, depends on the open mic, but like if you're in like New York, I'm sure that's like a whole like you get like 9, get 3 songs, whereas like.
Well, in stand up you get like 5.
Yeah.
And then, you went to the Brew here. I mean, they're pretty loose with it, but I still feel like it's like.
They're still like 9, yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, I got 30 minutes in Iowa City,
that's
and
dope.
like with the videos that from the open mics we played in Florida, they're both like 30-minute sets. So.
Awesome.
So that's what I feel like is kind of standard as far as my experience of an open mic is you get about 30 minutes. But I mean, 30 minutes.
That's great for a musician though. You get like a real.
You can play an album basically,
Yeah, well, and then it lets you sort out a way to construct an album of like. Oh, this doesn't work as well as the opening song as this one. And maybe this one needs to follow, I mean, that's, I'm in no place, being out of doing any kind of comedic stuff for 2 years, but I always, try to go up and do new stuff because I was paying attention, on stand-up especially, like, I always had a new 5 minutes, each time. So each week I was then writing 15 minutes of jokes for all 3 mics that I was going to, but then I would hear this one hit, and this one hit. So then when it got time around to do like a show, I would cycle those back in for 1 week and say, okay, these ones still work, these ones still work, these ones still work, and then cycle around, all right, what order do they work in? And then you have time to build up. But you've had all this like chaff that you've been able to work through, which isn't. It doesn't sound like the right mentality based off of any long-term comedian you've heard. They're like, oh, I worked on that joke for like a year or 4 years, which I had some jokes like that, but like, there's so much of like, I have 5 minutes and I'm just going to work on this 5 minutes for the next 3 months. It's like, you're going to get bored with that.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be funny, so you're not... It's going to be funny, but it's not going to be funny to the people that have seen you do it for 3 months, so you're not going to know if it's actually hitting. Whereas if you bring it back and forth, you'll know if it's hitting. But so the same thing with music of like, oh, people seem to groove more with this song as the opener, and then when I slowed it down with this next song, it was fine, whereas opening was too slow of a build, you know, the crescendos and decrescendos of, you know, the hill peaks and valleys of music.
Well, our set at Copper Rocket was like... So they told us we got 5 songs, but I mean, we still fucking filled 30 minutes. But like, so like...
But if you get me with the first song of like...
Well, the thing
like,
was
oh,
like,
I'm
so
in.
so we walk into Copper Rocket and like, you know, so like, there's like a group of people that know each other and are coming to this, and they're like a band. And you know, like, so I'm hearing a lot of these like classic rock cover songs, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so when we went to our set, we opened with Free Fallin', which is like a very recognizable sing-along cover song. And then I played Closer to the Sun by Slightly Stupid, which is a cover song, but like a cover song that they didn't know. And then we did this, so like, it was kind of funny because like, I'd planned to go into this like 12-bar blues riff, which is a very recognizable riff, a very traditional chord progressions. Yeah, I could say to the bass player, hey, we're going to play a 12-bar blues in A. And she's like, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're going to do. So it's kind of a cover in the sense that we're playing this highly recognizable chord progression, but Dylan then just, you know, I was like, hey man, what was funny is I gave him this great lead in because I was like, we're trying to do his math homework because he's going to school down there in Florida, and like he was having trouble with it. So I was like, yeah, well, my buddy, I'm down here visiting my buddy Dylan, and who's going to Valencia, and he's had some math homework and he couldn't do it. So this is a song we wrote today called the Math Homework Blues. And then he didn't say anything about math homework, which I thought was hilarious. But you know, so it's him improvising, just doing weird shit, and so it's kind of an original song because he's just making up whatever. But on the other hand, it's kind of a cover because I'm borrowing a blues progression that everybody knows.
No, but that's just no.
But that's what I'm saying is like, so we went from highly recognizable cover, unrecognizable cover, mixed between original and cover, and then we hit them with an original. And I was like, we blended from what they were doing into, because our last 2 songs were original songs. We did a song I wrote, and then we did a song that Dylan wrote. And I was like, you know, when we listened back to that progression, I was like, wow, we really masterfully were able to blend into, from what was, we're playing classic rock covers, into our own stuff, and people were with us because it wasn't just like, we're fucking bleeds from the wrist and this is our song about death, you know, like, you know, like we were able to take them with us in like a
people
cool way.
People find success in that too, but yeah, and especially, I mean, you know, a great thing about jazz and blues is because you've got like walking blues and 12-bar blues, you know, all of those are built that people will know, like, oh wait, I feel this, and then it's what you do with it.
I mean, the blues riff was funny because it was like I was trying to make eye contact with everybody, and like, because we were just jamming, and this harmonica guy came up and started doing harmonica breaks, and I was like, oh thank God. And but it was like I was trying to wrap it up, and then, like, I tried to wrap it up 3 times before we finally ended, and that was just the song that wouldn't end, which was kind of cool because everybody was having fun. But I was like, like, are we still going? Like,
yeah. That's the nice thing about the blues, man. Is it
just keeps going. Just keeps going.
Because if you're just coming up and it's just you know, like, and it's just a backing, because you don't even have to sing. You can be like, I'm about to tell you guys a story, and let that, and then, but then they hit me, and then the guitar player will do a thing. All right. So we just made a thing, like nothing. It's improv.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that was what I was like, dude. Just make something up. But I don't know. It was a fun set. I mean, the next night we actually played more songs. But it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't quite as tight because we didn't have a bass player that time, so I kind of missed that. But overall, I mean, it was. I was planning on maybe playing one open mic while I was down there in Florida, and you know, for him to come through on like a Tuesday night show, and then for us to meet somebody at that Tuesday night show who was like, oh, you can come play again tomorrow, Wednesday night, and to be able to get to play like both nights that I was in Florida, like.
And the show ending up like better than you had planned it on.
Oh yeah,
being.
like because we had a band, dude, and
Yeah,
to be able to like share that live, and I don't know, I was super. I mean, I wasn't sure if I was gonna go to Florida at all because I didn't book any shows there, but like I was like, okay, I'm in Alabama.
Holy shit! Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
No, I just had no idea that opening one beer would be such a spike.
It's just a spike in the audio level. Well, but like, I went just to visit my friend.
That's what I mean. Is like your Florida Mike stuff. I was like, oh, so he'll probably just like play the guitar on stage.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to
Not
have
this
whole
show.
jam night.
Like,
It was crazy. It was awesome. And then which was what I told Dylan. I was like, hey man, like you have more opportunity down here than I have up in Minnesota. Like there's no reason that you shouldn't be out playing these open mics. And I don't know.
The South is just a great place to be
general,
for music.
For
You're
live
so
music and original music.
Imagine being that close to Atlanta.
Even just listening to the radio, just hearing people talk about, like, there's so much more show promotion, and people are talking about how this is a show that we all want original music. Like, it's just a different culture down there, which is what's kind of fun about going south. Because, like, in Minnesota, I find most of the market is geared towards a demand for cover music. And in the South, no, they definitely want you to be creative. They want you to share your own stuff, and there's just more live music, and it's better attended. But I mean, I was listening. So you remember my buddy Forrest?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a podcast now called Straightening the Record, which I remember I saw an advertisement on Facebook, or like him promoting his podcast on Facebook, and I was like, what? I want to be on your podcast. And I didn't say anything to him because I was driving. It was while I was on tour, and I was driving that day. And then he sends me a text like 45 minutes after I had thought to myself, like, man, I want to be on Forrest's podcast. He's like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And I was like, we must be psychically linked or something.
Yeah.
But so I started listening to his podcast that he has up on Spotify. And he was talking
on Spotify.
Yeah, which is also that was interesting because I just post my stuff to YouTube because that's good.
You're not on like SoundCloud?
No, I don't like SoundCloud.
Oh, okay.
My podcast anyway. Well, most of my stuff I just publish to YouTube, but I've been wanting to get on Spotify, but I have hit some roadblocks in my understanding of how to do that. But so I was kind of wanting to talk to him about it. But anyway, he. Man, if he was on one of his podcasts, he was talking to somebody about how, people say that they support live music, but yet it seems to be kind of undervalued, that people don't want to, like, $5 is, like, too much to ask, and it's like, really, it shouldn't be too much to ask. And this artist was like, well, here's how I feel about it, that we're asking the wrong questions. It's like, I mean, yes, people should be able to pay more than $5 or at least $5 to come see somebody play live music. That shouldn't be too much to ask. But the thing is, people can't afford that, and that's the real question. Like, that's the thing that we should really have a problem with, or be asking ourselves, is like, how come people can't afford to support live music? Like, how come our economy is in a place where people are struggling to get by so much that they don't have the extra $5 or $10 to support the arts? And I was like, that's actually...
But they probably do. You also got to be judging on, like...
Well, not everybody does. Not everybody that wants to can, like...
Yeah, but also, like, are you sure they want to that badly compared to, like...
I think that there's a lot of people that would if they had the means. I think there is a lot of people that are struggling, and no, they don't have that extra $5. I mean, I'm one of them. Mm-hmm. I would support... I'm a live musician. But I mean, and especially because it's like people that are musicians who are going to be the most interested in supporting music, they have the least money.
But you're probably not looking at just a $5 thing. It's $5 to get in. You're probably $20 for drinks.
Yeah, if you're getting a drink or whatever.
Maybe Uber rides, so another $20 there and back. So now you're at like $45. I think that's part of it. Well, now, of course, you could just go, drink and drive.
I still think the point stands that people don't have.
Yeah.
The income to support the arts. I think that is the real question. It's not like how come people don't want to support the arts. It's like how come people can't afford to support the arts.
Well, so like him being on Spotify and stuff, or I mean, like it's at SoundCloud. You know, I mean, if you don't like SoundCloud, that's fine. But I think that music's a lot harder to take a risk on too, because especially depending on the area and stuff, is like I would like to go to a show. I would rather go to a show knowing stylistically it's going to probably be the same. Actually, for me, I'm kind of fine with it mixing up. Like the last show of yours that I went to, you know, where we had the country dude, and he was amazing, and then the instrumental metal dude, and then you, like, you know, like, it was like, this is pretty cool, but that's me. Whereas I think most people are like, well, no,
They want to know what they're buying.
I want to know I'm going to a punk show. I want to know I'm going to,
Yeah.
you know, a folk show, you know. And so when you're trying to book in some gigs, I feel like if you're gambling on, is this, and you don't know, it's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to correct that, but I'm saying like that's part of it too. I would think is like, because I've walked by a place where it says like live music. I'm like, well, I can hear it right now, and I don't care for what I hear right now.
Yeah.
So I'm really I'm not gonna walk in to hear what else is going on. But that doesn't mean whoever played next I wouldn't have loved. You know, like, you don't know. You know, and so it's a hard thing. I mean, that's just the hard road
to be in.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I have to pee again, like so bad. Do you want to talk, or I kind of don't want the flush to be on here, so I'm gonna take another break.
All right, that's fine.
All right. Okay, and we're back. So, I
mean, we're talking about touring and stuff in general. The question I have personally, because this was the thing that always appealed to me.
Yeah.
About like, so like, you know, the comedian Doug Stanhope. He spent 3 years of his life where he was just on the road. He lived on the road. His address was the Denver Comedy Works. Like, he just has mail sent to the Denver Comedy Works, and they just took it for him. That was like on his like driver's license, I think, was just their address. And to me, that was a big appeal. But so you're coming off the road, you know, you're about to go back home, but like, obviously, you know, you've had these cool experiences with the shows going differently than you even planned. But as far as like the actual road, you know, this was what was always appealing to me is like you're a comedian or a musician, you're by yourself, you're on the road. What's that? You know, you left Orlando yesterday, you came through, stayed in Kentucky, now you're in Iowa. What's that stretch of time feel like?
I mean, I love it, kind of. You know, it fills my soul. I don't think it would fill everybody's soul, but to me, being able to... Well, partially, I think, you know, one thing that gets on my mind whenever I do something like this is, like, you know, how miraculous and how much work it took to, like, set up this infrastructure. I mean, a lot of times I'm very critical of the infrastructure because of clean energy stuff, and does everybody need a car, and wouldn't trains be better? It comes into my mind a lot, like. But on the other hand, I'm just like, dude, I was in Florida yesterday. Mm-hmm. People died. You know,
that trip
killed people.
Killed nine people in your party.
Like, you know,
and it would have taken 8 months.
And so there's some of that where it's like, wow, to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants and be able to travel about these great distances, it always to me is so exhilarating and
it's almost maddening.
Well, and plus
you just like go crazy thinking like,
oh man,
people did this in the 50s.
Like, imagine if I had to walk this. Like, holy fuck. Like,
yeah.
You know, But and two, it's kind of fun because it's like, I like listening to the radio, like the public radio in each state, and kind of getting a sense for, because man, there is a lot of so like there's a lot more Christian radio down there, which is interesting, and a lot of I guess pro-red stuff, or I heard a lot of Bernie Sanders is bad because he's a communist.
Mm.
And whenever I hear somebody rag against communism, there's never seems to be an explanation for why communism is bad. It's always
What's going on
he's
with this concept
bad
of the
because
historical
he's a
precedents.
communist, and the fact that he's a communist is why he's bad, and communism is bad, and that just seems to be an accepted premise in the logic of a lot of this anti-communism talk, as opposed to like, well, why is it bad? And a lot of times when I and this doesn't even relate to the South, because I had a conversation with somebody in Minnesota about this, but who was like, I kind of mentioned like, well, maybe communism is not so bad. And they're like, I've never heard you talk like that. How could you say that communism is? How could you? And what I hear is like, there's a real opposition of communism, but because of this fear of what sounds like totalitarianism, like this authoritarian lack of freedom. Like, and I don't think communism.
The thing that currently people go off of is that every instance we have of what's been called communism
has been some sort of dictatorship, and
Yeah,
I get that, but that's not what I'm going for. I'm honestly trying to go the other direction of extreme democracy. Like, I don't think communism means we have to wear the same clothes or have the same interests or study the same. I think it just to me, communism is we're all equal, that we all deserve an equal stake, we all deserve an equal amount of respect, we're all, valued citizens that deserve to be here. And when you talk about a lack of freedom, like, I feel like we already kind of live in that, and this is petty. This is a petty example, because like, this is me being mad about parking tickets, but on the street in front of my apartment building where I live in Alexandria, we can't park in there during the winter time overnight. Wouldn't that be funny if that was my wife texting me like, "Hey, quit talking about me"?
I assume it is her. Yeah.
So like, I got a parking ticket recently because I forgot that I'd parked on the street, and I should have moved my car into my garage, but I forgot, and so I got a parking ticket, and I was like, ugh! This is kind of tough because I'm about to go on tour and I'm tightening the belt and I have a very tight budget, and this $25 actually means a whole lot to me. Mm-hmm. Actually, right now in this moment, $25 is a huge deal.
It's not even with anyone, a lot of people with just working regular jobs, still that $25 is like, well, this fucking changes what I'm gonna eat on Friday.
Yeah, like
to fucking
chicken
instead of
I was just absent-minded. So like, I tried to I went to the police station. I was like, hey, like, I don't have this $25. Like, I was a little absent-minded, but like, could you lend a little kindness and forgiveness? And they're like, well, that kind of devalues our whole ticket system. And I'm like, if the system is really ruined because of kindness and forgiveness and a little like flexibility, then maybe the system is flawed. But whatever. So after that, this isn't the first time I've gone on this crusade of trying to figure, because like, part of what bothers me about this is before we moved to this building, I lived at a house in town. I just rented a room. That was one of the first places I lived in Alexandria. I rented a room out of a house because I couldn't afford an apartment by myself. And I parked on the street, and I asked the guy, I was like, "Isn't this gonna be a problem? Like, do I have to, like, can I park on the street?" Like, and he was like, "Yeah." And the plows would come around and they just plow around me. Mm. So there's other streets where it's okay to park on the street. But this one block, like, my whole street is like one city block. It's basically just my apartment building. Across the street is like that car dealership.
Your guys' apartment isn't useful for... So if it's on like...
It's a cul-de-sac. It's a block long. The road doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. The street itself is a glorified parking lot.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, if it's like a busy enough street...
I get that you wouldn't want parking on downtown, like the main drag of this. I get why there's no parking signs in front of like the businesses downtown. I get that. That makes sense. You don't want people parking there because...
But where you live doesn't really fucking...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's just like, there's other residential streets where these regulations don't exist, so why is it here?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get in touch with somebody from like City Hall. I go to City Hall. They give me a number. I call a guy. He blows me off. I call him again. And he kind of tells me why he thinks I'm wrong, because he's like, well, sometimes it's a problem with like sewer drains. I'm like, there's no sewer drains on my block. Yeah. He's like, well, and so I'm getting a lot of excuses as to why, like, people think I should let this go, but I'm like, I'm not even asking you why I'm wrong. What I'm asking is because my question isn't like why is this law in existence? I mean, I did ask that for a minute, so I understand why some people told me why they thought the law existed. But basically, my real question was eventually like, so what is the process I can undergo to possibly change this? You know, what can I do to at least put this up for a vote where people, you know, even if I'm wrong, we can at least, you know, people can debate me and maybe vote me down, but like, what is the process under which, like, if I wanted to get this law changed or I wanted to change this regulation, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, there's nothing you can do. This was something that was decided a long time ago, and there's nothing that can be done now, is the answer that I get from my city government. And I'm like, well, if that's not totalitarianism, then I don't know what is.
That's true.
Like, I don't have the ability as a citizen to affect how I'm governed. That's not democracy. This is everything that everybody's pissed off about what communism should be, and it's like, well, we already have it. So what are you really worried about communism for? I just don't get it, man. Like, and like, you know, like, I feel like I have reasons for why I think capitalism's bad. Like, I don't say capitalism's bad because it's capitalism. I say capitalism's bad because decisions are made that are bad for humanity. Capitalism leads to decisions where we're wasteful. Capitalism leads to decisions where instead of efficiency, we have breakdown because it makes more money. You know, people make more money off of people being unhealthy than healthy. That's a problem. There are reasons. There are identifiable metrics that I can say capitalism has failed us on this, this, and this. When people talk about communism being bad, there are no metrics. It's just communism's bad, and that's my problem.
And yet, you spell your name with a capital letter. Checkmate.
Calling me out, shit. I'm fucked. You're right. You got me. I do. Two of them. Two of them.
Yeah.
Fuck. All right. Capitalism for the win.
No, but I actually just meant like in that kind of amount of time alone. You know, you're on the road, you're just driving. I would think that it'd almost have a very zen-like.
I was worried it would be lonely, because you know, and I was worried that I'd be vulnerable because I'm used to having at least like a couple of friends to like. Well, there's the three of us, and we can. If somebody was to fuck with us,
we can handle things. Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't go anywhere that was like strange or scary, and I just stayed with friends. So honestly, I liked it.
The appeal to me is the idea of
I liked
I'm
it.
alone, and
I went where I wanted to go. I went on the schedule that if I needed to stop to pee, I just did it, and I took the breaks that I wanted to take. And I mean, it was a little tougher because I had to drive the whole thing, but you know, I kind of just to compensate for that was just like, well, I'm gonna allow myself enough time to not have to worry about it. And you know, it's like it's kind of nice because I didn't have to worry about feeding anybody else. Like,
see, I love it. I mean, you know, and I'm coming from like being able to be selfish because I'm by myself for a lot of stuff. But like, you know, coming back from your wedding and being like, you know, halfway from Alexandria to the Twin Cities and being like, you know, I'm just gonna turn here. I'm just gonna drive south from here.
Yeah, just see what's up.
I don't have anything else to do. And then just driving south down state highways all the way into Iowa. It was like, this is fucking awesome, and I didn't have to ask anyone if this is okay. I don't have to. I mean, there was the moment where I didn't have signal and I had to look at a fucking map to figure out
where you're going.
I guess I did have signal. I didn't want directions because it would only take me back to an interstate. So I was just looking at a map of Minnesota, trying to find a road because I had to pee so bad. And then later realizing like it was so dead I could have just peed anywhere.
Speaking of my wedding, Ailey says hi. My wife says hi.
Hey.
She wishes that she was here spending time with you as well.
Yeah, we all Tyler and I were just talking about how great of a time we had with her at the cabins, like on Saturday, like just last Saturday. I don't want to blow up her spot on anything that she did, you know, on the mic and stuff, but
she's cool.
You know,
but she's the coolest.
But yeah, like that was mostly what we were talking about, was just that she's coolest, and so, but yeah, no, I just the idea of, it's honestly like a thing. So like, I don't know about you, but like I've had so many places in America that I would like to live for like at least a year. It's what kind of makes me want to like go back to try to like not go back to put in an effort to just try to write, because it's like if you just could write like a couple books that were successful, then you'd have enough income that you could just do whatever. Because I've always wanted to live in Tennessee for at least a year. Not like Nashville or Memphis. I want to live in East Tennessee. Like
It's
in
gorgeous.
the Smoky Mountains.
Gorgeous.
Like, I think that sounds awesome. I want to live in Maine. I want to live in Montana. I would like to live in Alaska.
You know
And
what?
I would love to live in one southern, like, you know, like New Mexico or something. And so, like, that's 5 years of my life that, like, I want to go live
Other
somewhere
places.
else. Like, I would love to live, you know, in, like, Santa Fe. Like, not
You know what,
Santa
this
Fe. You
is,
know, I hate cities, but, like, you know.
So as I was going down to Florida, I mean, so I went through like
And I would
Minnesota.
love to hang out at the Florida-Bama line.
Yeah.
That seems like my kind of place. Like, hey, like, we're all sweaty, and we're going to drink stuff.
Well, I mean, like,
Let's hang out.
so like as I was going south, I mean, I go through Iowa, I went through Illinois, I went through Kentucky, I went through Tennessee, I went through Alabama, I went through Georgia, and through all those states, I felt a certain continuity
Mm-hmm.
of, I mean, especially with like, I don't know, I think the street signs is probably my biggest metric as driving down the highway, but I mean, as you get into Tennessee, it's a little bit hillier and like, but like, for the most part, it's felt like the same country. But when I got to Florida, all of a sudden,
Well, it's a very different...
it's like, whoa, we're in a new world here.
Yeah.
The signs are different, like the street signs are different. Obviously there's like the foliage, is different.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and like that's, I mean, when you go to Louisiana, you're like, holy shit.
what the hell is this?
Fuck.
What is going on?
But,
It wasn't until like I went through 8 states, from like Minnesota down through Georgia, kind of feeling a certain. I mean, there's obviously certain details that are different, in, like fast food businesses and stuff. But like there was a certain continuity where I felt like even in Georgia, from Minnesota, I was in the same country. And I get to Florida, and I'm like, what is this place?
I mean, it's a thing that, like... I mean, like, my family, like, going back, like, 4 or 5 generations, came from Kentucky to Iowa.
Yeah.
So, like, we're Appalachian people, and then we moved in a thing called the Kentucky Compromise, in which a bunch of people who were opposed to slavery basically moved out of Kentucky and went up to Iowa, because when they got to Iowa... This was, covered wagon type days. The rolling hills of southern Iowa reminded them of the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And this is on my mom's side. And so they settled there, And, my mom's last name is Blair, and, like, we live 8 miles from Blair Chapel. Like, where generations of my family are buried and stuff. And, like, sat there purposely. And so then when I go through a place like that, I'm like, wow, it is weird how homey this feels to me. Okay, yeah, this is something in here, and it is. And then, of course, there's the idea of Minnesota with the Scandinavians and stuff like that, being, the Viking people. And so I think coming, you grew up in Iowa, and then now you live in Minnesota, and then you're going through this Appalachian area. People don't realize how much of Iowa is Appalachian.
Yeah.
And then Pennsylvania, Germans. I think German is actually the most widely spoken language in Iowa, aside from at home, aside from English and Spanish.
Well, even Minnesota, there's more Germans than Scandinavians.
Like, I saw a map recently that had every state, the number 1 spoken language aside from English or Spanish in each state.
It's German.
And no, I take that back. In Iowa now, I think it was Vietnamese.
Oh.
But like, I thought that was super interesting. Especially if we're talking about like universality of language and stuff earlier and stuff like, because I love like hearing people speaking like languages that I don't know, because I'm like, oh, this is so interesting that you're having something that I have no concept of.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I guess some people don't like that, and that's what makes, jingoism and stuff like that. People, but I find it fascinating, because it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
That it's like, I love watching magic, because I'm like, I don't want to know how you do the trick. I just don't know. Cool.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know what conversation you're having. You just are. Awesome. like it's cool. Like,
I like Spanish when I can. I mean, mostly no, because I try to listen to people speak Spanish and like pretend like but I never can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like that. I like the idea of like being able to speak Spanish. I mean, I can't speak Spanish well enough to eavesdrop. I really can't. But the idea of that people are gonna look at me and assume that I don't speak Spanish.
That also seems awesome. But I just love the idea of like, I don't even, because it's like, these people are having a conversation. I can't hear what they're saying. It's like, I don't really give a shit because.
No, what you guys look? That's a whole other language. That sounds crazy.
Like, yeah, all right. Well, I just can. There's so many things that people get worked up on that are like, did you see this guy? Did you see what this guy looked like? Man, I was like, and I'm always like, no, I was just like living my life. I'm sorry, man. It's a weird thing because like, I don't, it sounds so shitty, and, saying it on a podcast like this sounds almost like, being above someone or something. But like when someone says like, did you see those two people that walked in, like, the way that they were talking, the way they were acting? I was like, no, I was just living my own life. Like, I can't be bothered to give a shit about.
Never gave a fuck.
They didn't seem like they were in need of help, so I didn't care. Who gives a shit?
Oh, fuck.
And to me, it's like, this seems like the simplest way to live your life. Is like, if you don't notice that someone's in need of help, then
leave them alone.
Fucking cares. Well, I was kind of a crazy person. Yeah, they weren't hurting anyone or themselves, so I just, continued living my life. Like, whatever.
I had some pho while I was in Huntsville.
Yeah.
That's the second time that I've had Vietnamese food.
I don't think I've ever said this to anyone before, but for whatever reason, when I hear Huntsville, it always makes me think of Hunt's ketchup.
I don't think that has
always. I know.
You know what they do?
I think
you know what they have there.
I think the comedian Carl Tart's from there. Amazing comedian Carl Tart is from there, but
you know what they do?
I always think of Hunt's ketchup.
You know what the Saturn V rockets and stuff like?
Yes,
they make that shit there.
Yeah, they did or whatever. I don't know.
They still make spacecraft there.
Well, because now SpaceX and Boeing,
they're making some stuff there.
They make them in Huntsville, though. Still.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. So I went to the Space and Rocket Museum
in Huntsville.
I walked around the outside for a while and like looked at the stuff. It was like $25 to get in, and which I think was worth it, but I just didn't have the $25.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually go in the museum to learn about, but on there, some of the stuff they were talking about on the outside of where you had to pay to get in, they were working on. They mentioned, I mean, I don't remember the details, but they still make spacecraft there, and they're working on the next generation of ground to space launching stuff.
Because 2020 is like when we're supposed to have American spacecraft working again to take things back and forth with the space station.
Part of the reason I didn't pay to get in was like because it seemed like because they had a big outdoor part of it where you could walk around and see stuff, and it was raining that day, so I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if this is the best day for me to go do that. Plus, I was just broke. And
it's money.
Trying to save money, but it was cool to go see what was available, even on the free parts of it, of just being able to take pictures of the rocket and stuff.
Space is cool, man. I didn't get into space when I was a kid. I didn't give a shit about space.
How could you not, dude?
I know as a kid, like, is when you're supposed to primarily care.
How could you not care?
Well, I was a lot more interested in what was going on in the jungles and the ocean.
Well, that's fair.
Like,
the ocean's its own thing.
Yeah, like, so as a kid, I was like, I don't know, I feel like there's a whole lot here that we don't know about. And, especially as a kid, when you're a kid, you're like, I don't know, just God's up there. Who cares?
At least take care of it, whatever.
We can find out all the other stuff that's here. Well, but now, then I got to like 27 or 28 is when I started getting very like...
The implication of all them stars, dude. We have a star, and there's like 9 planets, and there's like an infinite amount of stars.
Yeah.
So there's like 9...
There's gotta be like at least 100 planets.
I mean, there's way more than that, dude.
Well, so I'm not wrong. Like,
you're not wrong. There's at least 100. You're right. There's like billions of planets.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what when we were talking about is their life.
But that's part of why I want the 1 year.
Sentience.
That's part of why I want the 1 year of living in Montana.
So you could see the stars.
I've been planning for a long time to just buy like a nice, for like $200 you can buy like a nice telescope. I don't want to get into all of it because I don't know enough yet about the way that the refractory lenses work and stuff. That you can literally like look in a telescope and see like the rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
In a telescope that like we can just buy for like a reasonable price as like regular people, not going to like
the thing, like
an observatory
Keck or whatever.
Yeah, like just we can just go to a field and look at. But so then imagine being like Montana and just being able to look at everything.
I remember
because I remember having a little, like I mean not a pirate telescope, but that kind, just a handheld telescope. I mean, and looking at the moon and being like, this is nuts. How much more I can see just out of this.
Yeah, the moon, because it's like, well, we have a kid's telescope that I think we won in some sort of raffle silent auction thing. And so one night I took it over to the park because it was a very clear night. And I thought like, if I go over to the park by our house, which isn't very far, it's a little bit darker because it's right by the airport. There's not so much stuff over there. And so I was just, pulling out the telescope, looking at some stars and stuff. And that park has like a Pokestop. And so my wife has a habit of stopping at the park and doing Pokemon Go stuff. And so I saw her pull her car up to the park and I called her. And I was like, because we had not used this telescope. This was the first time either of us had used this telescope that had just been sitting in our house. And so I had set it up and I was looking at some stars. And so I called her, because she was like, hey, you're at the park, right? And she's like, what? Yeah, how do you know? I'm like, well, I'm here too. I got the telescope. You should just get out of your car and walk over here and look at this telescope. And she was like, oh my God. Yeah. And that was honestly probably, I'm pretty guilty of not doing a lot of date nights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, especially we're married now, and it's like
even easier
to not do. We do some. Like we went to get dinner the other night, and it's like.
But it becomes easy.
Sometimes I'll surprise her with lunch at work. But it's sometimes it's like, well, I'll see you when you get home. We'll have dinner and we'll watch Grey's Anatomy, like whatever.
Lunch, baby, super hungry. Anyway.
But that was I think it was one of our very fun. It wasn't really a date night because it wasn't really premeditated, but it was kind of like I think of it as one of our more fun date nights because it's like she wasn't expecting it. Like here, all of a sudden, she's just going about her daily business. I'm familiar with her enough to know that she might turn up at the park. I went out there just to look at stars, but like I kind of knew that like she might show up and like it'd be kind of badass to be like, hey, you want to look at some stars? And she's like, oh my God, I do. And like.
See, that's a big thing that for like
astronomy can be sexy is what I'm saying.
Definitely. Just all that matter moving around. No, but a big thing for me, I had, I guess probably almost 4 years ago at this point, like a really great trip that was what got me like a lot more interested in like space. Is like, all right, kind of did everything here.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's not true, really.
But you know what I mean? Like you're like, all right, I've done the drugs, I've drank the drink, I've been with the women, like I've done the things.
Now I want to go fuck some alien women.
Well, no, like now I'm a little bit interested in just like looking at
what's up. Yeah, what else is there?
Looking up instead of.
I still think the ocean though.
Well, that's its own thing. That's its own thing. But I'm just saying like, and then especially like doing DMT made a big difference for me too, in terms of like an outlook on like. I get it, and it's weird because like we go to certain parties and stuff where everyone does psychedelics and stuff like that, and I kind of quit doing it because it was like, actually to me like the way bigger trip is the fact that just all of us are here together at the same time is so much more of a trip and way cooler than worrying about altering my mind with some other drug. Like I'm tripping so hard off of the fact that like we're together right now because of the space stuff, because of like putting in the time to like learn about and look at like out there.
Yeah.
And be like, dude, out of all the things that could have ever happened in this one fucking moment, we happen to be standing next to each other. If that doesn't give you a trip, then you have not taken the right kind of mushrooms and stuff. This is the trip. The trip is the fact that we are here
we managed
together at this one moment, and I'm fucking holding your hand and saying, "Bro, we're here." It is like it's hard to explain because obviously, like, I understand. I love the euphoria off of psychedelics and stuff, but like, once you do a certain point, and then you start thinking about the world as like, this is the psychedelic, man. All of this is insane to be a part of. Like, this is nuts.
I mean, that's true.
Especially when we're in the environments like that I'm talking about, where we're removed from society still.
Yeah.
And so we don't have the day-to-day worries. And then it's like, all I'm caring about is like, do you want me to make you a cheeseburger right now? Because if not, then let's just keep sitting here. And if you do, I'll go make you a cheeseburger. And that's the only stress in life, then I don't need anything except for like you to be here. You know, whoever it is, like, you're here and I'm here, and that's all that's going on. I've been trying to think more lately about, like, you know, and I wouldn't have gotten there without psychedelics and stuff, but some more of that Buddhist element that we all as Westerners don't ever read about except for, 6 paragraphs a year and try to like interpret a whole thing off of. But this, it is because it's all about that whole, sand on the beach, and the beach doesn't care about what the waves are doing. It just allows the waves to hit the beach. And like,
for me, it's
interesting.
For me, psychedelics have helped me deal with fear.
And me with depression. They got rid of depression for me a lot.
It was like, for me, it was like a real awakening of, oh, I'm like afraid. And then I finally was able to recognize how afraid I was of all these things. And then once I recognized it, like, oh, my only problem with a lot of this stuff is that I'm just afraid. And once I was able to recognize that, I was able to let go of that. Because I was like, right, like, fear isn't something that, the only thing to be afraid is fear itself. And so I was like, oh, this is fear. It was, to me, it was crazy how much stuff, or how much was in me, and I wasn't recognizing it even as fear. And then I'm on psychedelics, and I'm like, oh, now I can recognize that for what that is, and it's gross, and I don't want it in me, and I can flush all that out, and it's very empowering because, on the opposite side of, fear is like this.
Well, fear leads to hate.
Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to
suffering.
But I was able to get rid of all that, Or at least that's what helped me with psychedelics. Helped me sort of cleanse my spirit and, feel the light, flush all that. For me, the chakras thing was a good imagery for me to be able to deal with like fear and guilt and shame and anger and the lies.
You're definitely like a very chakra guy, especially even your body posture on those kinds of things is like, it'd be hard to explain without like being.
Yeah, I'm not like an expert in like this stuff either.
No, I'm saying, but like without being in the trip, without being in a trip state. The way your movement is, the mechanics of a big thing that I found like in the last year, it's gone back some. I haven't had it in the last like month or 2 months even. There was a long time where I was tripping dreams, and then in the dreams I was able to control my trip, and so I was having a dream. And I was walking with people, and I said, hold on. Before we do this, let me do this. And I, like, kind of... And I was tripping in the dream. And I was able to turn it on. Then the next time that I tripped in the dream, I was standing next to Chandler. I was like, hold on. I don't know if I can do this, but let me try. And I put my hand on his arm. And then we both. And then I was able to pass
So you, like, in a dream... We're able to activate tripping.
And then
that's crazy.
In a dream I was able to activate myself and the other person in the dream tripping. Then I had a dream after that in which I activated the tripping and then had the energy of the trip and was getting ready to pass it to someone that like I knew it would be difficult to give it to, and I woke up. Like, and I was like, damn, like, what the fuck? Like, and so that was also why I wasn't interested in tripping that much, because it was like, dude, I'm tripping all the time because it keeps coming up in my dreams.
That's crazy.
And I'm trying to sort that out before I get into other stuff. Like, you know, like, yeah. And so, like, I got very boring on the trip element for people, because it was like, no, like, there's a lot going on in dreams that, like, I gotta figure this stuff out first.
Yeah, I don't trip in my dreams for sure. I don't. I'm definitely dependent on chemical substances for my trips.
But once I was, then it was like, well, why would I bother doing anything when this is happening like once a month? You know,
yeah.
like, so, but.
But for me, the psychedelics were tremendously positive and therapeutic exercise for me because of being able to deal with this fear. Like, it's even to me without, because it's like, it's not like I'm on psychedelics all the time, but like the experience of being on them and dealing with this fear and cleansing my chakras and it really has, I felt like, purified my spirit in a way that I've been able to carry through in my life without the drugs. Like,
you're not gonna jump off a building. Do it with friends that you know, like, you will be comfortable around. If you don't have any people that you're going to be comfortable around, that's a good time to evaluate, are these people my friends then? Then do them, and then you'll definitely be like, these people are definitely not my friends. You'll still love them, but you'll definitely be able to tell, like, oh, I don't want to be with these people as much as I thought. Go find, everyone treats it like some scumbag. Go find, like, your weirdest friend, not your dirtiest friend. Your one that's like, why do you not do things with people? I mean, they'll probably know someone, like, just something like that. I'm just giving some advice to people, like, go do them, but, like, don't be afraid. That's the reason that people have bad trips, is because they get afraid about it. And then you're going in and you just know that you're going to feel good. And then just do that. And just take a little bit. As with anything, like, no one probably gave you a bottle of vodka to drink the first time you ever drank.
It's all about dosage, and I think the proper planning. Like, you shouldn't be doing psychedelics just when you have
Yeah, when you know you have 2 days off or 3 days off.
It's like, okay, I have the time, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to gather all the things I need. That's what I like about like you said, the parties we go to, is that it's like, okay, well, we plan... We create the space of time where we can do this, and we, it's not like we have to go anywhere. We get all the resources we need. We plan. Mm-hmm. It's about planning. I feel proper drug use is about proper planning. I feel like, and
I don't think I ever, when I was, like in high school age and stuff, when I was very Christian, like, I wanted to be a pastor, a youth pastor or something. I was against drinking, and, I was against drugs in terms of heroin and cocaine and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, heroin and meth I'm still against.
Yeah, but
amphetamines, opiates.
But I'm saying, like, as, like, a youth, like, Christian kid, I was still pretty, like, I don't know, it seems like God made marijuana and God made mushrooms, so I don't know how to judge those. And so I was very like, you know what, maybe I won't do them, but that doesn't mean I have to, like, think that this is like a condemnation. Because to me I was like, man made alcohol, God made weed. One's okay and one is the one that you should be thinking about. Like, God's fine with weed, he made it.
Yeah. God
made mushrooms. It was like, don't do acid. Man made acid, like, do mushrooms. Which acid's fine too. I'm just saying, like, this is me as, like, a 16-year-old thinking about
God and
the universe and stuff, and so. Because I was always like, but I also think, I also listen to a lot of hip hop, and weed's prevalent in hip hop, so I may have been like trying to be like, well, no, it's fine. I mean, God made weed, like, it's not.
Well, in my experience, I agree. I think that weed is less destructive than alcohol, for sure.
But alcohol is the one that's part of, traditional, Catholic, Christian stuff.
But fuck that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's just interesting.
In my experience, if you're gonna, I would more. But my experience supports the premise that the whole God made weed, man made alcohol, that makes sense to me based on my experience of that. Actually, you know, I've never gotten so high on marijuana that I've done something destructive or dangerous or like that I regretted, whereas I've been so drunk that I've done a lot of stupid things. I've definitely made more terrible decisions and put myself and others at risk.
I remember you being real drunk one time. That this is the only time, you know, most of the time that ever, you know, we've always had a great time drinking together. But there was one where you were so drunk that it was like a wave and a hand in front of your face, and there was just nothing there. Like literally, like I physically like waved my hand in front of your face. We were outside, and you were just like, what, like shark eyes, you know, and I was just like, bro, it's time to go to bed. And then it was like 4 or 5 seconds, and you're like, what? And I was like, just nope, gotta go to bed.
Gotta go back right now.
Because even that is your response time to me waving a hand in front of your face and say, and I mean, I've never seen you that drunk again or anything. It was just a one-off, you know. And that was back in our Black Velvet days, probably.
Oh no.
You know, something like that. And like, because you almost fell, and then you stopped, and you're like kind of bent over, and you're just like, and I was like, bud, you here? Hello? And then, I mean, you know,
and I feel like if I was equally induced on marijuana, I would have already just fallen asleep.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
We'll tell people, if you ever get the chance to live across the street from a place that sells $8 bottles of Black Velvet, and then you want to just buy cans of Arizona green tea, do it. I mean, live your life.
It was a jug, and it was
fun.
It was the it was the ginseng green tea.
Well, we started with the cans, and then we upgraded because we were buying enough
like,
bottles.
Well, we should probably just get a gallon of this.
Live your life.
That was the hilariousness. So we went over to the Walgreens across the street, and we got the Black Velvet, and then we drank it, and we were like, well, I guess we need another one. So we went back over there. Got another one. I can only imagine what that cashier thought. Like,
yeah.
Seeing us again, like,
I remember the day that the sale ended, and it went up to like $9. We're like, well, we can't do this.
What the
fuck? You're going to raise the price? That's 20% increase.
I don't even think we drank the second bottle.
No.
Like, we got back to the porch
and like 2 bowls.
The time.
I think we left the cap off and just sitting on the porch.
Yeah, the time it took for us to go get the second bottle.
I do miss
the first bottle kicked in.
Not necessarily there, but like especially like if we live
being outside
in a small town,
yeah.
like porch drunk is so much fun.
And being outside in your home. And
that's probably what we should end on. Just drink on your porch.
Drink on your porch. If you're gonna drink anywhere,
drink on the porch.
Drink on the porch. Okay, that's good advice. Well, thank you, Robert, for doing a podcast with me.
I guess I'll end just as I said after that first break. Do mushrooms and read books. It's the number one thing I can do. And then you know all the rest. Everything else people will tell you.
Yeah. You know, we didn't even talk about college. We'll have to do another podcast where we talk about college. But all right, safe travels, everybody.